Welcome back to the ESL Challenger League Season 47. The European edition continues. The Asian edition was earlier on today, Michael, and we had some interesting results. ATOX qualifying to the ESL Pro League, so you can tell that things are getting pretty deep in the season all across all regions. But before we can get into that one, Michael, Europe's getting underway. It's been competitive so far. How are you feeling like it for the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that we're getting towards the end of the season as well, when there were quite a few names that we wanted to talk about at the start of season. Some of them have been able to rear their heads within these playoffs, and some have kind of gone missing. So, that's kind of how the season will often develop, and it's actually a big part of I guess the positives of the way that we have restructured the European side of the ESL Challenger League, because it's gone through many an iteration. It's aligned with teams and player schedules. And I feel like this way we get a better look and more time for these teams to actually show what they're made of by the time the season concludes.
Well, let's take a look at the brackets over here now, Michael. We've obviously got ourselves Rushby, who beat out Saw earlier on. I was very surprised about that one. They did drop the Sinners later on. So right now it's all going to be about, for us, 3D Max versus Sangal. Rushby will be playing up against Aurora Gaming elsewhere as well. And obviously the upper bracket final is Koi versus Sinners Esports. Before we go on, any surprises for you as we look at this bracket?
I guess it's, for me, kind of refreshing to see Sinners back in a position where they can qualify for ESL Pro League when, at one point or another we were so focused on, the stars or like the emergence of a younger core. And I guess is still kind of the story with the Sinners team, but they've done so now, kind of undergoing a few roster moves alongside it and going up against Movistar Koi on that upper final. That's a game that does qualify you into Pro League directly. So it's kind of an exciting time for both of those squads, because Koi, I think, have been closer to that, breaking the barrier of being locked into these seasonal cups. Instead, you want to make it to like these big S-tier tournaments, like what the ESL Challenger League can provide. And Koi can sometimes get to that point, but if they can do that on a consistent basis, they can feel better and more confident moving forward.
Michael, I think you're the only person in the world who's more excited about Sinners' younger core rather than 32-year-old talent Oscar. But yeah, of course, it's an interesting storyline. That's not the storyline we're going to be focused on, however. Of course, for ourselves, it's going to be a little bit more about 3D Max versus Sangal. But let's also take a look at the schedule for today overall, for the overall streaming side of things. Of course, we're going to be having ourselves all three of those matches coming in. Personally, for the 3D Max side, I'm going to be very excited for that one. Obviously, I'm a bit of a fan of them regardless. So before we talk about them, let's just take a look at things. Movistar versus Sinners will obviously be going into the A stream. We've then also got Aurora Gaming versus Rushby going on. And right here, it's all about 3D Max and Sangal Esports.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just be able to dive straight into it. I feel like we have a pretty solid game on our hands. Just the fact that the 3D Max team, it was kind of a big deal that these guys were signed in the first place to an organization that had been outside of Counter-Strike for such a long period of time, and for them to go back with names that they were familiar with from the organization to the players. They knew of each other. But I think it was, a long road for this French squad to actually kind of secure funding and secure a big organization, and they had expectations that they would probably make the major. That is always going to be the big conversation when we have organizations returning or emerging into Counter-Strike, is that usually it is to target these massive tournaments, especially where you can sort of reap some returns as well. And 3D Max just kind of weren't able to get to that marker, unfortunately. For me, this is a squad that are clearly undergoing some growing pains. They are wanting to make shifts, and that's why they've brought in Gravity as well to try and fix some of the problems that they've been having.
Well, let's take a look at the matchup and the lineup overall in that regards as well, because I'm very curious about Sangal as well, Michael, and what you think about them. Because for me, Sangal is one of those teams which, at one point, I was very sure that this is going to be a team that graduates to being, a consistent feature in the top 20, top 25. Doesn't feel like they've been able to do that, even though they've maintained, obviously, X-Clouds overhead. Then you've got LNZ once upon a time from NIP. Youngster, even if I will say this is how I know he's Gen Z or Gen Alpha, because of all the X's in his name. There's some players but unfortunately this is not a team that's been able to ever establish itself as an actual contender to enter into those S-tier events as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me it was incredibly difficult to see see where they would finally end up going. I think once they lost some of the sort of German influence, like they had QB and Panics, I wasn't sure that there was going to be kind of inherent structure coming in. Sangal were a squad that had a nice little mix of playing a little bit more sporadic and a bit more spread out to having some nice site executes as well, or some nice mid-rounding. But I feel like they've lost quite a lot of that experience and the structure that comes with that as well, that the German scene is often touted for. You know, they're not bringing in Danes as well to replace that. The Swedish scene has kind of been known more for its, you know, aggressive tendencies rather than relying on foundations. So yeah, this team is still interesting because it has some very strong players that can make, and honestly, it's an exciting team to watch at times because it can be so explosive. But you worry about how well they'll stack up against the likes of a 3D Max that are actually more comfortable working their system and are kind of what Sangal could have been had they continued to develop on that trajectory that you were talking about.
Well, listen, we're going to have to find out whether they can now actually get onto that trajectory, because obviously this is one of the important matches to try and put yourself in contention for qualifying to Pro League. Between them and 3D Max, as we look over to with 3D Max, of course, they have actually managed to create a pretty good structure for themselves just on the basis of how long this core has been together. And Maka is seemingly doing a pretty good job of IGLing while having the op, which I've always been surprised by, right? I never chalked Maka to be down to be the kind of player to be able to do that. And initially when the transition was announced, I thought this is going to be another one of those, 3 months IGLing, and then it's going to go away from it back to opping, have his name ruin projects. But frankly, it's pretty impressive that he's stuck to it for so long and actually put themselves in a consistent grounds for being able to create these upset wins as well. So 3D Max is an interesting project, but we also have to turn and take a look at what this sort of veto situation is likely going to be over here, Michael. I've already taken a look at the veto, Michael, and well, you know what, we've got it rolling out. So anything that's surprising you over here?
Not particularly. I think, you know, if we're thinking about the tendencies of both these squads and trying to avoid each other's strengths, this does feel like it makes sense. Sangal at one point or another, I mean, Ancient was definitely their best map, and it maybe even still is to a certain degree. I know Mirage has kind of taken the forefront, but that was never going to see play in this series because it's 3D Max's permaban. And to be honest, 3D Max have been fine between Anubis and Dust 2, and, you know, it's kind of good for them that they get both in this series, but whether or not we need the decider in the first place will be a whole different conversation, because I don't think 3D Max are any slouches on Ancient either.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm actually worried about. It never felt like Sangal's going to be able to put themselves in a position where they even come out even on the veto without Mirage. It feels like in these days in their series, they're so heavily reliant on it. And you know what? Credit to them, most teams don't ban out Mirage, so you do actually get that pick early. And it's hard to get the win percentage that they do have on it, the success that they found on it. But unfortunately, then you go into a 3D Max who ban it out in the first phase. So Ancient's on a great place to be for your own map pick. It feels like a decider territory, to be perfectly honest. Dust 2 as well. I've got good faith in 3D Max about this one. And you know, Michael, actually haven't gotten a chance to cast the new incendiaries for the CT side as well, and it feels like on Ancient it's going to be a whole lot more difficult to go up against a structured T side when you've got so much less time on those incendiaries and everything like it. But I think we're both leaning towards one particular side. Michael, is it fair for me to say 3D Max for you?
Yeah, I think just you have to go with the longer standing core and just a team that has so many, I guess, more veteran-esque players that are going to be more comfortable in this kind of a playoff scenario for me. So I will say 3D Max for sure.
Well, we've also got our Kadia player to watch as well, and of course, if we're predicting 3D Max, I think it's pretty straightforward that it's going to be a man from 3D Max. It's a man we've already chatted about. It's Maka, IGLing, opping. He's trying to do it all.
Yeah, I mean, Maka, it is actually surprising at times if you had taken off the nameplates and just said, oh, who is that AWPer for 3D Max? He's having some crazy rounds, and then figuring out he's the in-game leader as well. It's strange because so many times we see that transition made and they don't take as many fights. They're playing a little bit more safe. I think that becomes a bit more the style to be more consistent as well. You know, you don't want to be a liability in two very important roles, but Maka has some very high impact, like crazy rounds at times for this 3D Max team. It's clear that he enjoys the chaos and he's willing to thrive in it should his team require a big play to be made.
Well, we're going to have to wait to find out whether he can actually put that one into the mix as well. Of course, for the 3D Max, so we've talked a lot about Maka. The other player to try and highlight for me as well is going to be, to be honest, a little bit of Lucky. Lucky's been stepping up pretty heavily as far as the numbers are concerned. And it is kind of insane to me because it's funny. I remember this on a podcast about 6 years ago now, which was by the numbers back then. And Richard Lewis and Thorne had to say about Jax and Lucky joining G2 at the time. They're saying, you know what, these guys are so old. What are they going to do? They're not going to be good players and everything. They're really just, you know, whatever has-beens, and they're never going to be able to make it in. And you know what? They had a pretty successful career on G2. But then everyone thought it would fizzle out. Now, 6 years later, he's still on 3D Max. He's still putting himself in pretty key positions. He's still actually a pretty good fragger for Tier 2 especially. So, you know what? Just time flies when you're killing people on the server, I guess.
Yeah, some people aren't just going to let their careers fizzle up like that. It's good that Lucky's continued to kind of stay fighting, because, you know, you think about how many pillars or even some of the emerging talent out of the French scene, especially because, you know, when a scene is on top, it feels like you just start finding more and more of those players emerging through the ranks. It almost like motivates the entire country to continue sort of grinding for that dream. It's so important that players like that don't just deteriorate or don't just hang up the mouse because they have one setback. And yeah, it's nice that he's able to still put up some good numbers for this 3D Max team. I do want to see, you know, on the inverse, you know, a relatively young player on that Sangal squad. You know, we've talked a lot about 3D Max, but I want to see players like xFloud succeed. I want to have the youngster explosive rounds. I want to see Jota throwing himself into it. You know, this is a squad that can work so well off of momentum and actually just kind of the flow of combat that at any given point, even if we're going to say 3D Max will be favorites, Sangal could take over the game if they get off to a solid start.
That's exactly what we're going to be looking forward towards. That explosive rifling potential that does come through with xFloud is going to be something to really keep an eye out for. And obviously, he's one of the Turkish talents who everyone's... This is sort of like the new... God, what it was, Zentaris and Gallic situation, I think it was once upon a time? Yeah, where you just felt like, oh, the best riflers aren't together. Of course, Eternal Fire these days are doing quite well, but xFloud is obviously the man who could be considered left behind in that lineup. Now, Sangal starts things off with a smoke and 2 Molotovs. They're heading over towards what looks like a donut to A side finish. Lucky's in great position to stop it, though.
Yeah, has Dooley's prime to greet them on that A bomb site, but with that 3 lead, 3D Max are on the wrong side of the map, and Sammy will be able to find that entry. Makasit already taken down, and with Joko not having armor, doesn't have really stalling utility, has to wait for his teammates to come on the retake, so it'll be 5-on-4, but they've got long control here on the Sangal side.
You've only got one flash to try and take this back from them, so a deep contact might be the play, but Lucky's taking a headshot immediately. Trades it good for Jota. Keeps the action going. 2 is all he's good for, but Youngster's been given time and space to wrap backwards into short, and with that, get a good peek, but no Ecstasies. Shuts him down, in fact. Now, back to a 2 versus 2. You do have a kid on Gravity as well. A D flashbang out towards B. Ramp could be the end of these 2 players, but the problem is where the bomb is planted. xFloud fully blinded up. That's a 5-second flashbang. LNZ is trying to fight back. Looks for the duels. Will find the headshot as well. Taking down Gravity in the process. Sangal take it home.
Yeah, I mean, really nice setup there from Sangal, just having a number of contingencies in place. You know, first contact over at long and a player playing anti-flash. They clearly had that very well rehearsed, understanding what 3D Max could come into this round with resources-wise. And even though Youngster doesn't succeed on his short play to stop those long players coming out, that was another one of these prongs that could have sealed the round fully there for Sangal. A very tough round for 3D Max to react to. Didn't have the right players on the right side of the map, but they go straight in with a force in the second round. See if Sangal are going to anticipate some of the aggressive maneuvers these MP9s are going to make.
I don't think they're going to be ready for the MP9s at all, but it won't matter. xFloud just takes them down. Okay.
There's one way to deal with it.
Yeah. I thought he might be able to actually just... I thought he might be overrun by the MP9s, but okay.
Yeah, that's
3D Max now might want to consider saving, in fact.
Yeah, if you're willing to get aggressive and try and take action with just 2 players, then, you know, in theory, saving these 2 SMGs could be worth its weight in gold. Joko does get his hands on a SMG himself. And so the high versatility, the high mobility of these weapons could certainly see play in a future round, but Sangal are continuing to make their presence known over at B, and given what we can see on the minimap, the lack of reaction from 3D Max, they will opt to try and save these weapons and see if they can find impact in the following round. This is well handled by xCloud to secure this round for Sangal.
Yeah, it could have gone very wrong, especially if that AK is out in the open. You get the ability to find out that there's no one in middle. You know, CT is going to grass through from Donut. You put yourself in an awkward position, that's for sure.
I like to see that as well. Sangal are willing to take a couple of risks, even in rounds like this. Like, they cheated past the elbow smoke that was thrown from spawn on 3D Max. They were ready to ascend up to ledge from middle, as well as have a player playing close red. You know, these are very individual plays that, have they gone awry, they could be seen as a misstep or a misplay, or, you know, playing too detached from each other to guarantee trades. But given the way that Sangal can be a dominant factor, you know, taking a few of these more brazen or bold fights can actually be a way that you start to sort of get in the minds of 3D Max, especially at the start of a game where it does. I do think the win condition for Sangal is momentum based.
Firepower, yeah. At the same time, for 3D Max, if they're able to find these aggressive players, that'd be big. Flashbang is good on the youngster, keeps him away, and now Sammy in a one-on-one. It's a fair fight, but Gravity's the one who comes through and tips the scales. Youngster now comes back over, found out. The MP9's now doing what we were worried about in the previous round. 3-on-2 with rifles recoverable, but xCloud might be the savior once again.
Yeah, stops any of those rifles from being recovered. Starts to weigh on the minds here of 3D Max as well, because no one's in a close enough position to retake that spot. And xCloud will know as well that that entire ledge position will be a high traffic spot potentially for a late round rotate from a CT trying to get their hands on a prize. But now they're regrouping. Sangal setting themselves up towards an A-side attack, but Maka's getting suspicious of the fact that there's been no additional presence being made in mid.
If Sangal don't throw a smoke out towards CT, that could be a big mistake. Maka's in a great position to actually get the quick headshot. He misses the shot, though. That's a little bit disastrous. Now they can smoke off CT, get the bomb plant in. Bomb there, just make sure that... Oh, never mind. They were not able to actually check for Maka. Joko's kill was free, though, so that meant that even if Maka had found the frag, if he gets refragged over there, it's all over.
Yeah, that got really, really nervous. It was a little worrying, you know, with that smoke that's down. It's so easy for CTs to cheat out without the donut player being able to properly cover, but yeah, they're able to keep it alive. Good recovery from xCloud in particular, making sure this didn't get out of hand with how aggressive 3D Max were being towards ledge. But that was also the 3 SMGs that were saved over, that were the main issue that they had to deal with. Now into a full buy here from 3D Max, but Sangal are sending it. They're getting aggressive in through mid. xCloud taking that fight initially, but there is no one close enough to trade, so he can get out. And Maka even taking up Mantle in towards mid. He'll get his one, and he'll be fragged right back, but this timing on the smoke, Youngster just creeps right through, back to 3-on-3.
Mid-fights continue to be chaotic, but Joko's been left alone on the B-bomb side. He will not be given any assistance. These players on middle are too far away to actually come through on time. Youngster will already be inside the site and very much have established a home there by then. Find a wife and kids.
Oh, timing's bad there for Joko as well.
Joko's going to be able to get away, though, in that situation, and now that's given enough time for the players to come up through the cheetah area. Now, if you can just hold on to your life in Joko, the deep CT smoke means that Youngster wants to try and fight. He should know this as well. Joko turns away, and Lucky's fallen as well. That should be the end of the round. XRC's close by. Adjustment not there from Sammy, and now XRC's trying to push forward. It's really a one-on-one. LNC's not going to be looking for the peak anytime soon, but the Molotov is misplaced, and Youngster will not be forced out. Youngster can just wait for LNZ to come in from behind, and XRC's at this point, if he can't find a frag, it is pretty much game over. Youngster can clear it out, and yep, LNZ's flank now comes into play.
Yeah, really well handled at the end of this round. Again, it does seem like we are seeing a trend of just these aggressive mid-fights. That is clearly a firm objective here for Sangal. Try and make it uncomfortable for 3D Max to feel too confident about any of these rotates. And you have to feel for Joko there. You know, as that solitary anchor on that B-bomb site, it's so difficult to have to worry about both avenues of attack. He was exposed to both short and long and had to just kind of pick his timing. But that can be one of the major vulnerabilities with leaving an isolated man, is that long is kind of your best angle to hold on to both ramp and cave, but it's also the most anticipated because of that.
To be honest, I think this was really just one of those pushes from Gravity, which doesn't make all that much sense, right? You know, you see you're in 4v3 in that situation. Gravity's trying to get greedy for that kill in middle, and unfortunately, that's why he leaves his post back in towards Cheetah, and he is taken down as a result after another push through the smoke over there. Maybe just a little bit too reliant on that smoke to provide him cover that was really not going to be given to him at all. Sangal is more than happy to push through those smokes. We know that.
I think the communication as well didn't seem as free-flowing as it could have. You know, even when we looked at Maka taking his fight, and after they found Joko, or sorry, Xcloud on that initial mid control, you know, there was a little bit of hesitation. You know, they weren't swinging together. They were kind of keep tabs on each other, but it's just a complete slaughterhouse over at Cheetah. And with all that early aggression, 3D Max have still been able to find themselves into a 1-on-2. Exorcist that sparked a lot of that intrigue at the start of this round will have to be the one that closes it as well, but incredibly difficult. AK in hand, sure, but I mean, he doesn't have a kit, and they are just waiting for him to creep through this smoke. And the first duel is free, but Sammy gets off of the plant and pulls the Glock, the sidearm, all that's needed. Sangal still pulling through, this time by the skin of their teeth.
God, all of these rounds are just coming down so close, but Sangal just getting the post-plant situations as the last 2v2, 3v3 situations always going in their favor. But again, so much damage dealt in a round without too much investment. In fact, it's enough damage that Exorcist can now drop the off for Maka, otherwise Maka had bought down too low. Exorcist's 2 MP9 kills gave him the option, but that's an option they will not exercise. They decide that they don't want the op.
I think they understand that the pace of this game is maybe not the most conducive to AWPs. They are running in as packs, and they are finding frags just straight into the B play. And Youngster maintaining his flight path, but the flash is great. Gravity swinging out wide, and he gets that double. But Youngster's already permeated so far into spawn, and even though Exorcist was ready, overrun. The shadow advantage here for LNZ, but Maka has continued to fight forward on this bomb site. This has been all over the shop. It's flanks on flanks and just out-positioning one another and just trying to find timings. Youngster taking charge in the final moments. And again, it's not pretty, but Sangal just cannot lose a round.
I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised over there. So I would like to believe this is intentional, but Youngster, his spotting is very specific. He's getting very aggressive and making sure that the long player doesn't actually peek out without a flash or something like it. He's completely blinded by his own team's flashes. He just keeps going forward. The second man is actually the one who takes down Joko in that situation, and because Youngster never stopped because he was flashed by his team and everything, he gets that keep aggressive position there. Again, I'd like to imagine that's by design, but it could also be some team flashes.
Yeah, it could have been as a reaction simply to the fact he got caught by the team flash, right? Just get himself into a more hidden position, especially when there were going to be smokes down on the execute. Sangal breaching that B bomb site off a very fast play, and now slowing down the pace. They have been hit pretty hard by some of the low buys of 3D Max, and I imagine they are anticipating something similar this time over, but both teams have decided to bow out of the absolute war zone that has been the start of every one of these rounds.
Yep, that's a good place to not go into the donut area. You've got 3 people with 1 AWP leading the charge against an MP9. That's never fun. At the same time, Exorcist has met his demise, and Youngster introduces Lucky to the same fate. Joko, okay. Oh well. That could have been a moment. Instead, Maka's about to be opt out more likely than not, or just completely evaded. The A side is clear. Sangal will occupy it soon.
This does feel
That's
like
not where the
shame.
smoke's supposed to go.
No, that smoke definitely didn't accomplish its job. But this is a kind of a great shame for 3D Max, because I think Gravity did a lot of things right as the solitary defender of that A bomb site. Got that smoke down towards Donut, you know, retreated and audibly so, but you can never work in complete absolutes if you're Sangal just off of one set of footsteps. And he kind of sent Sangal packing towards that B bomb site. They wanted to make sure they had more than enough time to get that planted. No problem cleaning up a final kill here from xFloud. But they wanted to make sure they had enough time, and by the time they start moving in, get a little worrisome when 3D Max get caught aggressing B at the exact same timing. You know, if the objective is that they're going to aggress B like that, then maybe Gravity would have stayed on that A bomb site and, you know, taken over A main control, or, you know, tried to serve as another avenue to basically deter them from that site itself. When your players are getting aggro on B like this, at the timing where Gravity is starting to rotate away, it does beg a few questions to me as to whether or not they're communicating what everyone is doing.
Like, I'm sorry to sort of take us away from that for a second, but are we just not going to see ops being bought by 3D Max? Is that the game plan on Ancient? Have I missed something? Is Ancient an anti-op map now? Gravity, in the meanwhile, does find LNZ, and now what is going to be a fast A play is being lined up by XSCs for what could have been a multi, but the nade popping open the smoke for Sammy to find that quick frag. Now Sammy goes ahead, gets another one. Lucky left alone, and alone he will at least find one. Second could have been, but can't get the headshot, so Sammy stays alive. Bomb is planted. And right with that, Sammy reminds me, Ancient is not an anti-op map.
It's not that you can't. It's, are you willing? And do you think it's going to win you rounds? Because this is the thing, you know, when we see games start like this, and it's not uncommon sometimes to see them want to play into a faster pace, you know, meet the aggression kind of head on and get into the thick of it, and rifles are much better at doing that than orbs are. But when it's not been working...
Also, like, one of the strongest things you could do on Ancient is just to put the op in A and let the rifles go aggressive everywhere else.
Yeah, Maka not feeling it at the moment. 2 and 8, whether it's been ops or rifles.
Yeah, it's a tough time. That is
not been pretty.
Without doubt.
This is not really how I expected this match to go.
Yeah.
Wax is there about 3D Max and the capabilities they have, but Sangal are showing exactly what we were talking about as well. You know, this explosive tendencies, these riflers that can frequently find multi-kills, and 3D Max have found many of their own, but this time they're only going to end up with 1 kills out of the aggression out from Gravity. Maka will retake that position and bring it back to 3-on-3, so this is still contestable, but they have vacated that A bomb site, and xCloud is currently investigating that opportunity. Joda just trying to keep them at bay and keep them distracted, but now that xCloud has this deep position, they're starting to peel away and try and bring that bomb over.
Oh, Sammy's going to be caught out, but he doesn't get taken down. Last bullet isn't quite there. Sammy even gets a chance to fire out one of his own, and now he's just holding down the angle. Worried about a flank from behind they should be, but in fact, XSCs will be completely undetected. In the meanwhile, Sammy is just watching out for Joda's push through. They have decided the B site will still be the destination, but XSCs isn't actually trying to pressure the chokehold on them either. He's instead playing for A denial, and it all sets up for xFloud. xFloud should find Maka for free if he actually looks into the corner. Maka, however, will find the spot first. xFloud looked like a bit of a 4-3 over there as well. And with Joda's demise, 3D Max should put themselves on the board for the first time.
Two great things about the way that this late round played out. Sangal realized they get caught retreating out from B and decide that it basically has to be the B bomb site. xCloud's deep position doesn't mean anything if you actually can't transition into the open bomb site. 3D Max had information to play off of, but Maka as well, a great read on some of the vulnerabilities they were going to experience. If they got flanked out from cave, and that was going to be the way that his teammates died, his position would have still been very advantageous because it would have been a position that could have denied the bomb as well from being planted. But an anti-flank position, first round for 3D Max, it comes into the late round. Sangal trying to get control of the territories that have been there hallmark the whole time, but they're getting shot through all of the smokes. It doesn't matter which way you go, you just can't emerge out of this util. Sangal getting completely stuffed.
I didn't realize that was an option, Gravity, but LNZ is now all alone. Will at least find one. Turns away, not expecting the second. If you could just shoot through all the smokes, get great spray downs, why don't you do that before?
Oh, it seems so simple when you put it that way.
Yeah. There's very little you can say about that round, other than some great flashes actually coming through from Lucky and Joku in that situation, enabling the pushes to come forward, sure, but also there was some great sprays through the smoke.
Yeah, they just got completely blocked by util, and then, even though they were blocked by it, shot right through it as well.
If we can't move through it, why can bullets? That is not fair.
Yeah, we only have Molotovs and smokes.
Thank
At least
God
it's not
that.
like giant acid walls or something, you know? Who would think of that?
I thought you were going to say the ice wall.
Or that, yeah, you know that.
Because you can't shoot through that, right? I think
who
you
would,
can't.
I mean, who would think of any of these things?
Dota players, right? That's what we're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. God. Might be another bit of aggression to come out, but with Maka to lead the charge this time, he is going to be unwilling to move through the smoke. Will just dissipate it initially to try and catch a timing for the players to come through. Will not be able to do so. Now Gravity has to be careful in this position. Can't see the shadow initially, so he's only good for one. And Joku as well, almost getting caught out, given a chance to reload, but not any more than that. In the meanwhile, LNZ hits the nastiest shot you're going to see coming in. Quick little peek in from Cheetah. Maka is not ready for it at all, and with that, 3D Max have rediscovered the firepower of Sangal.
Yeah, even at the start of this round, it isn't the same tone nor pace out of Sangal that we've seen in some of these previous rounds. You can see that I think they were even a little concerned that that momentum or that speed at which they were playing that was finding so much efficiency wasn't going to continue to work. So there's a bit more hesitation, you know, moving out for these duels. They don't move in with as much conviction, but they still find the kills. You know, 3D Max are expecting that they are going to get completely rushed down, and in that small moment of uncertainty about the pace, you know, players aren't ready to react as quickly. It's only when they lose a player that they start to pull out util and start throwing their defenses in. And you want to be confident that your teammate can hold on to your spots, but they couldn't sort of interlink very effectively to stop what Sangal were cooking up. That round did feel like a turning point, you know, recover into an 8-4 half, and 3D Max will have had enough wiggle room, perhaps, moving into that second half, but now you're potentially staring down the barrel of 10-2. Sangal have just been, I mean, they won every close round that they were given in this first half.
Oh, Nate's a well placed on the LMC. Puts him into wanting territory, not that it was needed. Gravity shot out 17 bullets regardless. M4A4 does hit a little bit different when you're able to get the spray off. It's so much fun, but XSEs is now trying to cut down the fun of Sangal. They're pushing through smokes into certain death, and XSEs is the one to deliver it. 5-on-3 now. Sangal unlikely to find much more as the CTs are pushing through their own smokes and getting strangely elevated positions. It's only the two left now. Sangal trying to fight back. XSEs will be repositioning behind the big box. Not to be expected. Both players looking away. Joda likely to just fall down soon after. And if XSEs doesn't peek now, it might be a little bit too late. Still, finds Sami. Joda's last one and left alive. 9-3. Sangal Esports put themselves in a great winning ways. However, can they continue it in the second half? We'll find out after a break. 3D Max not in the winning ways that we predicted they would be, and honestly, that's kind of my bad, B.
Yeah, it's not just your bad. I didn't combat you on it either. Did set out a win condition for Sangal, and right now they are flourishing in the fighting. They are finding that win condition, and they have done so with some difficulty, but they have continued to persevere. LNZ will have some support of the dualies. Xfloud was there for the re-clear in mid, but it'll come down to a 1-on-2. The initial fights were pretty advantageous for Sangal. Maka has some space, and he has these 2 pistols that could have these 2 remaining Sangal players written all over it. We'll have enough space to plant as well, so the extra money will be nice, and he can start to put that pressure onto Sangal, given that the time will now be against them.
They do have themselves a smoker kit and flashes. Well, just the 1 flash, and a flash. So it's not the best of positions for Maka to be in, but at least he can put himself in fighting territory. He's also gone away from the bomb, so if you do just want to smoke it off and stick the defuse, that is certainly a possibility. Maka will have to try and catch these 2 players coming in. Dualies are good for the angle, but only if you can find a kill with them. Xfloud shows us why Maka can't. With that, it's a 10th round for Sangal, 3D Max. Michael, I know you said that it's a 1v2, but how many 1v2s have we seen right now that 3D Max just never wins?
Yeah, I think that has been the problem throughout this entire map, is that there are many points in which you could have seen 3D Max re-establish themselves and get more rounds out of that first half, and each time Sangal were just able to dismiss it. So, yeah, I mean, the attempt was commendable, but even if you consider the way that the round was playing out there for Maka, he didn't plant for himself. He went forward in a position, and he shot at the very first opportunity instead of trying to play the mind game. But then also, is it much of a mind game? Had they split up on the Sangal side, they could have gone through cave and through long, or through ramp rather. It's it's been a difficult time for 3D Max to really get anything to fall their way here on this first map. And, that's not without, throwing some praise at some of the 3D Max members that we're trying to keep them in it. I like what I was seeing out of Gravity, the willingness to be aggressive, the willingness to as well play off of his teammates when they were fighting for middle control, and, a lot of those rounds didn't work out for them. But it is showing as well some of the, I guess, capabilities and some of the potential that they see in him to provide 3D Max with some more aggressive pieces.
I mean, there's a reason why he has the most kills in the server despite being down 3-10.
Yeah. Also tied for the most deaths because, he was in the thick of it.
Listen, he's down 3-10. I do not blame him for that one. Oh my god. I will say though, nice to see that Sammy is picking up the AWP on the CT side very early on. Xfloud buys it for him. It's as easy as that, guys. And Michael, you know what? Because we've got a tech timeout, we can have this discussion. I know philosophically it's something to keep in mind that, hey, rifles against rifles, we can push more, we can go more aggro and this and that. But I hate that idea. I hate that concept just because so much of the attraction of an AWP, I think especially in early Counter-Strike, used to be that, well, early CSGO, maybe not early Counter-Strike, I'm not that old, used to be that you can just hold one part of the map, right? So you can have long on Dust 2, that's all yours. In this case, on Ancient, you can have all of the A side, or you can have just the B ramp, and just push like maniacs elsewhere. You have all your flashes for that. You have all your incendiaries for that. Just try and take fight like that. We never saw that coming out from Maka. Now he's buying a scout on the T side. Well,
online Counter-Strike and the loss of confidence in AWPing from AWPers. These are
terrible duos, yes.
Yeah, these are real diseases plaguing on the minds of Counter-Strike players at the moment.
He might end up being taken down. Gravity finds him on the jiggle. Was going pretty deep for that. Xfloud in the meanwhile is next to fall. Gravity continues his own personal foray on the scoreboard. He will continue to climb up. Joda in the meanwhile is going to be given a chance to find maybe a kill onto that lone scout, but it's forced off instead after the initial tag comes in.
Oh, he was really hoping they would smoke CT. He was really hoping he might be able to escape and save, but they're trying to lock him in as best as possible. Joko will also stop him from retreating, You see that Sangal are not interested in bringing themselves any closer to this, and even though Joko wasn't ready for the fight, able to get his hands on an M4. And a kill can be recovered as well. Exorcise doesn't have a gun. So this is really nicely done. Once again, it's Gravity kind of setting the tone for how the rest of the round is going to develop. Just being aggressive towards Cheetah, swinging out through mid, and just ripping a couple heads clean off. No doubt that he's feeling himself aim-wise, but how much of that is going to provide space for the rest of 3D Max to activate on this T side is still yet to be determined. You know, first rifle rounds we can very easily dismiss as, you know, trying to come to terms or trying to understand how your opponents are going to play. But they still have some weapons that they can bear merit with, and they're actually going to buy up around it as well. SMG's aggression and hope to play safe.
Let's find out if that's the formula or not. Youngster initially does go for the jump spot, nothing beyond it. It's going to be maybe even a chance to try and hide, because remember the AWP wasn't actually shown in the previous round, so 3D Max shouldn't have an idea that it's here. That's where a couple of these players might go for some weirder pathing. You don't know if there's a force spy behind this either, so muting information makes some sense. Obviously, it's not the traditional way of doing it with the MP9s, but let's wait to see what comes through from it. Being good about flashing up the triangles as well. Samey gets the adjustment though. Gravity not ready for it. In the meanwhile, Lucky is trying to push in through the red room smoke and find some real estate here to see if he can cut off the rotation. But Samey very worried about that fairy play.
And he gets here in time for the full clear. Youngster getting aggressive in towards Cheetah, but Samey very loud about his rotate. Still worried about the prospect of that flank, but also once again to a position where he can reinforce this B bomb site. 3-on-3, 3 Max are cutting sound. They are slowing things down, and X-Cloud's close to ramp.
X-Cloud's in a really good position to swing out once Joko's thrown out the smoke. Joko, though, is watching for that after he's used his utility. Knew that was an option, but knowledge in this case is very much not power. All now coming down towards Jota with the MP9. Picks up Exorcise as well, and this round has fallen apart. Samey should be able to find this final kill as well, but not able to hit the shot. Backs off, and with the time being as low as it is, honestly, does feel like Lucky will have no choice but to save.
Yeah, this decision was made for him. Completely boxed in. The only way that the round explodes is if Jota actually does get that kill in towards Zona, which he succeeds in. A very slow builder. X-Cloud set up the conditions for them to be sent away from that B-bomb site. And after he took so much damage, I didn't think he'd come out ahead in that fight, but just absolutely destroyed Joko. And that may crush the dreams of coming back as well here for 3D Max. I don't know about you, but in my eyes, they had to basically be flawless to bring it up to a, you know, an 8-10 score line or something along those lines.
I'm sharing your eyes, Michael. I'm sharing your eyes. Your eyes are in my head right now. I see what you see.
Huh. Maybe we do spend too much time together if you can do that, because...
Just pop him out, put him in. Well...
You must be so bored. I spend, like, so much time just scrolling through clothes and just items I want to buy.
Where do you think I got my fashion sense from?
I see.
There you go. Thanks for giving me my second career in modeling, Michael.
Huh. Well, I wouldn't have pushed it that far, but...
3D Max might not be able to push Sangal very far over here either, unfortunately. Dust2 will be coming up next. That's their own map pick. And honestly, Michael, I'm actually quite scared about Dust2 as well when we think about it. When we see how these players are fragging out on Sangal, and we see that Maka, you know, confidence or otherwise, will not be warmed in with the AWP going into that one. I'm curious to see how it transpires.
Yeah, I think Dust2, in the way that it plays, is a little bit more... I don't know, it feels more 3D Max's style. You know, this is a squad that like to get aggressive, but they also like falling back to these, like, deep lines. They just didn't really have a chance to get advantages and fall back into that as a part of their game plan when they were on that CT side. That it was, it just wasn't looking comfortable on this map whatsoever. I think Dust 2 will be more conducive to that style of play from 3D Max. But yeah, a lot of it will come down to, you know, how well they actually frag in the server. And right now, if we had to weigh that up, Sangal are clearly doing a better job. They've done a better job at that. Spacing for trades. They've been better at finding, you know, just opening multi-kills, even if there aren't trades available. They've had a lot of things going.
Now Jodo getting the quick jump over as well will be helping him get aggressive. Flash overhead for Youngster will be helping Jodo as well. Jodo, though, can't find the kill. It's a headshot through the wall, and Joko's already in the site. Samey trades. Samey covering off the angle so the T's can't progress forward. Jodo now finds his frag, finally taking a man down with this. CTs can look to reconvene and go for the retake. Joda still wanting to get aggressive. If there's a flashbang, that would be quite helpful. Shadow visible, but Gravity goes a little bit prematurely. Firing out with the Tech 9 gets nothing. Nate is good, but the boost comes in regardless. Maka might not realize that possibility because of that death that he's been delivering. Lucky, meanwhile, pushing forward, missing the timing. Might not realize that LNZ is going to be now looking for the flank in from behind. This could go terribly for them. LNZ now looking away. X-Cloud's demise actually is LNZ space to come in for both. And with that, Sangal can get the defuse.
Oh, Lucky had one responsibility, and it's to make sure that Maka couldn't get fully flushed out from CT. And Lucky, as he turned, that's where LNZ comes in big. Another one of these close rounds, clutch this time here for Sangal. That gets him to map points, not series point. As only being the first of our best of three. Sangal picked into this, but they have also shown us what it looks like when, you know, they're all fighting at, I wouldn't even say full strength, but they're all fighting at a relative level to each other that everyone is confident on these trades, everyone is confident on these fights, and they are well rehearsed in these post plants as well.
Honestly, Sangal's comms just look really clean right now.
Yes, they do.
Which is kind of surprising to me because that's not what I characterize about this team at all normally. Traditionally, I think, you know, a little bit more two rifles were doing a lot of the work. There's going to be some chaos. There's going to be some things going wrong over there. But no. A great showing. An X-Cloud in the meanwhile. That is, again, a little bit premature, guys. But hey, if you're feeling worried, you're feeling worried. Joda comes in, assuages those concerns. And now with X-Cloud's involvement and Youngster rotating in, it's only XSCs left. A 1-on-3, and it doesn't feel like he's going to be able to offer up anything in this attempt. Flashbang can be dodged. Youngster waits it out, and with that, 13 found for Sangal. They take Ancient and make it look easy.
Yeah, I mean, what else could you say aside from this was an emphatic display from Sangal. They weren't completely dominant through all of the rounds that they were able to play out, but they were consistently finding themselves in a man advantage. They were consistently bailing themselves out, even if things did get a little bit more hectic. This was a pretty open and shut case of Sangal just being the better looking team on this map. I think for me, I am a little bit concerned potentially moving forward within this series, because if this is how Sangal start and are able to finish, then that looks great. But if they don't get off to that start, if they have to worry more about how they build rounds strategically, if they can't simply rely on their aim as much, then I would maybe be a bit more concerned that their I guess fallback or their foundation past that would be a little bit more worrisome. But that doesn't matter if you're just consistently fragging out as well. You know, you don't have to think of that far ahead if that never actually rears its head in the map.
There's definitely concern to be had in case any of those early rounds went the way of 3D Max. But again, Michael, I will say I really didn't feel like this was a case of just fragging out. I felt like this was some very effective trades. And if by fragging out you mean no one feels like they're going to lose a duel for sure, then yeah, I'm with you for sure. You know, we definitely had that flow state being achieved by a lot of these players where it's like you see them in a 50-50. It's not an automatic loss for anyone. You don't have to have someone coming in with the flank, right? We saw with Lucky, it felt like Lucky couldn't actually get a duel to save his life despite being one of the players that we highlighted into this one. Beyond Gravity, it really felt like that was a story for a lot of the 3D Max guys. And unfortunately, when you're getting to those 3v3s, you're getting to those 2v2s so frequently, it's rough. But our Kadia player to watch, Maka, comes through. We did watch him. We weren't pleased with what we saw, but we did watch him, Michael.
Yeah, I will say, you know, when we are told that we have to make these players to watch, we're never told whether it has to be like a positive thing. You know, he's just a person that we're keeping an eye out for in this map. or in this series rather, and Maka, yeah, didn't really step up. You know, you noted it when they were on that CT side. He was very rarely having the AWP in his hands. Didn't feel confident to maybe work with that. I think maybe we saw only like one of the first gun rounds that he had an AWP, and then after that it was just rifles consistently throughout the remainder. And yeah, I don't know, the philosophy just seemed to shift, and they wanted to take the fights that they just simply couldn't win. So it was an uphill battle, that's for sure. But I'm hoping to see more out of Maka when we move into a Dust 2, because that is a map that you can take over with on an ult.
Well, we'll continue sharing eyeballs over into map 2, Michael. We're going to be back with Dust 2 very soon, guys. You can share eyeballs with us as well. That's the beauty of Counter-Strike on Twitch. Make sure you're back after a break for that one. Welcome back. We just saw 3D Max being absolutely hammered out of that first map. The question is, can they maybe be a little bit more of a tougher nail in this second? Maybe refuse to go in, maybe not be the binding equipment. I don't know where I'm going with this one. Dust 2 coming up. Michael, how are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty good. I've enjoyed a lot of Dust 2 since it's actually come into the pool. I've especially liked the way that the map has continued to develop with the open skyboxes. I feel like teams are actually exploring a lot of those possibilities, and they're implementing some cool new strategies that were possible before in CS:GO, but definitely more difficult. Like, you had to be in very specific spots to throw some of these execute smokes and the like. I think teams are exploiting that very well. Now, I do worry because this is a low sample size map for Sangal. It is also it's a new map to the pool, so it is relatively low sample size as well for 3D Max. And 3D Max are picking into it with they've had one win under their belt, but they've had a lot of very close losses as well. And I think all the games being close is part of the reason why they still feel confident in it. That they'll have identified a couple of these critical rounds where they probably should have won or could have won the game, but didn't. So that's maybe what they're trying to lean into here, but they're going to be in for a rude awakening if Sangal start as hot as they did on Ancient.
It's like, so why did you pick the map? Were you winning a lot? No.
But we were close.
but like, did you just not play it that much? Is this like a secret pick? No, we actually did play it. Why are you playing? Well, we lost, but we didn't lose so badly. It's setting up quite a case, Michael. Here's the thing about that, right? Here's the thing. Normally I'd be with you, but I just saw Maka not buy an op throughout all of CT's side in Ancient, and now we're going out of that into a Dust 2 where you're telling me that, hey, they're mostly just losing it, but really closely, right? Confidence is not being inspired right now, Michael.
Yeah, I think it's as well. It says something about the mentality that they don't lean into some like. It's not like they haven't been picking into Anubis, because they have been. It's been Anubis and Dust 2 that they've been kind of leaning into as of late for their first round picks. But I just feel like Anubis probably could have been a better choice.
I agree.
Even if it is a map that Sangal play a lot of as well, that gives you more data to churn through, more understanding potentially of how to counter strat them, or find an exploitable or some sort of weakness. But maybe that's as well praise to Sangal, that maybe they looked through those demos and said, hey, actually there isn't any glaring weaknesses. I don't know that we want to take it that way. That this is all back end discussions that 3D Max would have had coming into this, but they have to be able to justify it on the server. You can't just go, oh, we picked it to the Dust 2, it was a bit of a risk, but we decided to take it when it comes to the playoffs of trying to get through to ESL Pro League. That this is one of those spots where risks are actually not so frequented, especially when you are, I guess, on paper or through rankings, the higher seeded team.
I mean, it's rank number 28 going up against rank number 45, right? So absolutely on rankings wise, this is the better team on paper. But also the other thing to keep in mind over here is that, Michael, if Anubis is something they're just afraid of Sangal after looking through the demos and everything, why is it the decider then, right? Like, it's just one of those situations where you're probably going to have to go to Anubis regardless in these situations. Probably want to have it earlier on. Mox is actually very good at calling on Anubis. I do think that's one of the maps that they made their name on last year when they made the transition into 3D Max as an organization as well. So, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I think that goes without saying. But Dust 2 is going to be interesting, right? I actually saw a lot of really cool stuff for Dust 2 over towards, when I was in Mongolia last week as well, Michael. A lot of very interesting smoke exploitation with just M4 spam in particular, and I think that with the M4A4 being buffed with the price as well, I actually think that's going to be more of a factor in mid. Might be seeing a lot more players trying to get that, corner of the smoke being shot out to get more visibility a lot more commonly, so that'll be interesting as well. I think Dust 2 developed very nicely, and I do like the fact that for some reason we still end up being the ones who try and come in with the fringe untenable opinions. Like, Asian CS is actually not buggy, guys. It's pretty good, and Dust 2 is actually a pretty strategic map, guys. I'm telling you, it's pretty strategic. Please, for God's sake, believe me.
It can. I think the problem is it can be, but only because people have enough respect for each other that they won't take fights. At so many different, so many different eras of Dust 2 have been so dictated by like opening duels and long control and taking fast spawns, and that still remains to be the case today. But when teams are a little bit more fearful of being picked off at the start of rounds and playing a little bit more standard and conceding control, then I think the map becomes unlocked as like a tactical, potentially tactical layered map. But I think it's because the rounds all start same that we think it is just very easy to understand in that sort of macro basis.
Right.
So
what you're saying is this is like the equivalent of get you a girl who can do both, but with a map instead, right? Okay, you can get dirty or you can get really nice and proper as well. That's basically what Dust 2 can be right now.
No, that's not how I would have described that at all. But
So you can't be prim and proper on Dusty. You know what? We're gonna have to find out over here, because I think that if Sangal want to take this one away, then it's gonna have to be very much down and dirty. You want to see those rifles coming alive. You want to see those guys just popping off and having the same kind of trades that we had. X-Fire in particular, obviously on Ancient, was doing such a good job of controlling the middle of the map as well. And if he can do that in Dust 2, well, hats off to you, man. You're gonna be goated in this playoffs. Honestly, it feels like if Sangal can add Dust 2 as a legitimate threat, this is going to be a very interesting playoff run for them.
yeah, absolutely. I think that there's still a lot of hesitance as well from teams about whether or not they want to dive into Vertigo and try and use that in their officials as well. So there's definitely a lot to sort of consider when you move further and further in each one of these rounds. But I have a lot of questions for 3D Max. I need to see Makazin involved. I saw Gravity taking some of these engagements. I saw some impact rounds from Exorcist as well. I felt like I was getting enough out of some of these other pieces. I think Joko had some moments as well. I just, if Maka goes missing, he is a pretty high fragging AWP and in-game leader player, where if he's maybe not feeling it independently on his own fragging metrics, then maybe his calling starts to be affected as well. That is one of the, I guess, the problem points of being a star player and in-game leader at the same time, is that both can be very much interlinked as much as you'd want to separate them.
And obviously, it goes without saying, we need the same performance from Gravity, right? We can't assume that that's going to be a consistent one over there, where you're losing very one-sidedly and you're still putting up the most numbers on the server. Gravity will need to come alive in a very similar fashion. Sangal, however, seem to be having a lot more of their win conditions already activated. Can they keep them activated?
Well, starts off poorly for Joda, but Samy's still fighting over it long and continuing to refight into it. This time Maka was ready for the reface. 3D Max able to stabilize after finding the man advantage, still maintaining that, a 4-on-3, but a boost to see over the top of Car just to make sure that there's no one tucked into that corner. And 3D Max are slowly crawling on their approach, and it's given a lot of time for a Sangal to try and get into position to contest this A-bomb site.
3D Max are really trying to dot all of their I's and cross their T's to try and just get onto the site, but this boost might be a problem. X-Cloud's going to be putting himself in great position. If they want to go for the crossover to Goose, then 3D Max should be falling with at least one, making it 3v3. X-Cloud gets a chance, but he can't actually land the shot until a little while later on. Meanwhile, the T's are regrouping back at long. Lucky's position known, but he gets nothing from it. Gravity and Ecstasy's now having to do the heavy lifting, and you've got a player inside pit already. Probably want to try and run him down. Youngster is getting aggressive because of that. Knows where Ecstasy is. Long range headshot doesn't actually deliver the kill. That's the problem with that range. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day, though. Youngster just pushes forward, takes him down regardless.
Yeah, and LNZ being as ratty as he possibly can, understanding the headshot height that was being held in that particular 1v3 there from Exorcist, knew that the USP wasn't likely to find his head if he ducked down in that particular moment, especially with his teammates covering and continuing to fight Exorcist all the meanwhile. 3D Max had that man advantage, but to be honest, X-Cloud coming in with some very key shots, bringing Sangal into that pistol. Oh my goodness, and a lot of damage being done to Joko, just swinging out towards top mid, got dinked and put down to 14 HP right off the rip, so might try and give a weapon over, but the problem is if he gives his rifle over to Exorcist or Lucky, neither of them will have armor. Not that should be much of a factor in that determination. I think he'll swap it with Maka instead, and there's all sorts of gun swapping going on. Joko's now down to a Tech 9. The rest of the squad will be put into a position where they're expected to now pry open one of these sites. But these are the concessions that we were kind of trying to highlight. When we end up in these situations, a minute left and there's territory for the T's, this is where you can start to think about strategy, but they don't have smokes to really think about too many options or variants.
Good flush out for LNZ at least. In the meanwhile, the problem might end up being Joda. He's getting aggressive in from long, and he's going to be able to give information soon if he goes fast, and X-Cloud is proving to be very difficult to deal with in middle. So it really comes down to Sammy to try and delay them for a little while longer while Joda comes in with the flank. Joda spotted as well. Can call for the rotates to come through. Flash overhead, and Sammy doesn't want to fight. In fact, he's waiting for the Joda flank to come into play and get an advantage that way. All Sammy's doing is making sure they have to go funneled back into the farmers. Sammy now needs to take the duel, gets it as well, and Joda's doubled up with the farmers in the meanwhile. Now Gravity is just another sitting duck, and Joda is very much hunting.
Yeah, it's not like 3D Max aren't putting themselves in positions where they could potentially convert, but even when they're getting these the bomb plants in, they're just getting completely gunned down. Once again, good decisions being made here from Sangal. The push from Joda, the flank timing looks pretty advantageous, and you know, Sammy at one point was just simply holding the corner, holding the cross towards that A bomb site, but I think once he realized what Joda was up to, played a much more defensible position, and you know, 3D Max were just getting shot from angles that they simply weren't expecting before they even set up in the post plant. This is not the way that they wanted to start out this Dust 2. Once again, getting themselves into potentially round-winning positions and just getting their heads ripped clean off. Sangal I think, you know, they haven't answered fully the question as to whether they'd be able to keep up their form, but signs are seeming to indicate that it would be yes.
I'll say the comms still look really good, man. The fact that Sammy and Joda over there able to coordinate so quickly. Sammy just get a flashbang out, move back, and make sure they can't cross over towards Goose. Joda can deal with it over in short. Just full faith in each other as well, while the two players come in from CT spawn as insurance. That's, again, I'm just really impressed. I wasn't expecting this at all going into the game.
Nice clean shooting once again here from xCloud. Makazin trying to land tags and keep them at least honest on that cross towards B. Smoke down in the corner, and needs to try and blow it open. They clearly want to try and take these fights here on Sangal. They know it's against pistols. They've heard techs, and those techs are now beginning to slowly retreat.
xCloud, once again, not shy at all about taking these duels, even waits in middle with a grenade in his hand to struck it out. It is a really dangerous play to make, if I'm being honest. At the end of it, though, with now only 7 HP, he should be backing off.
It's nice that he's expressing that fearlessness, but I doubt he'll be so fearless when AWPs start coming out.
Will they start coming out, though? That's the question. Lucky in the meanwhile, though. Good for 2 kills. And if they can find a quick one on Sammy, there's a world where maybe a ball can be planted, but Ecstasy flashed up and taken down. Sammy looking very good.
Yeah, I've no qualms so far.
I do. We're not going to have it up on 3D Max again.
This is where there's a lot of things I like about the HUD. This is where I wish the numbers were more readable when we're looking at T-Spawn. Because I saw the Maka actually had a pretty decent long spawn, but the rest of the squad were more lent B. So they'll start tunnels.
Oh, Nate's so good. Youngster needs to be careful, though. Doesn't have his gun in his hand and even pulls out the knife after the smoke. Ecstasy gets that one as free as can be, and LNZ is no different. xCloud, the only one able to actually get a kill and not just break blood, but Maka's still trying to lay impatiently down middle. He should be expected here, but Sammy can't trace him out, and with the bomb being planted, Sangal need to reconsider the commitment back to the B bomb site. This is going to be a little bit of a drop ball from Youngster, I'm being honest.
Yeah, and I think he'll have said that this is probably on him. You know, got a Molotov down, got an HE out, and then was hesitant on deploying the smoke. Had he deployed that instantly and extinguished the last 1 second on that Molotov, like, I don't think many players would have sort of doubted that. But they saw minimal pressure towards mid, minimal pressure towards long. As the anchor, you should be keeping a tab on that. You should understand that the timing.
I do wonder that maybe it's just one of those things where you just forget about the reduced Molotov time, actually, because just we're so used to the Molotov being another second and a half or so. But regardless, it does feel like a pretty egregious mistake over there.
Is it a reduced time? I thought it was just reduced AoE.
Oh, no. That's
Oh, no,
the
it's
thing.
oh, no, yeah, it is 1 second less as well.
It's 1.5 seconds less. So D side is 7 seconds, CT side is 5.5 seconds. And reduced time. Sorry, reduced area.
And reduced size.
Yeah.
There's
It's a
actually
pretty
one
big
$1.
buff, yeah. Sorry, pretty big nerf. God, I'm getting all my words wrong. Meanwhile, though, xCloud has found himself a death. Finally taken down in the middle for those egregious antics. Shoda, though, is getting a little bit egregious on his own.
Able to finally come out ahead in some of these opening fights. But Sangal have not only been adept at the starts, they've been decent in the mid. But they are tapping themselves out of this. With LMZ being already so low, they gamble towards this B-bomb site, and 3D Max finish on A. They will happily try and save their weapons, but it also given a lot of time for 3D Max to maybe engage in the hunt as well. Oh, Gravity's still probing and actually spots Youngster on his jump spotting. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any doubts here for 3D Max. Nice quick kills, you know, just nice to punish some of the aggression. And it is all off of rifles, but 3D Max able to run with those punches and start to build up some economy for themselves as well. You know, chaining rounds back to back is obviously a great way that you can continue and actually steal momentum away from your opposition, who, you know, Sangal won the pistol, they win the following rounds, but now their money would be pretty harshly reset.
I'd love to see what the adjustment's going to be from Sangal, though, and sort of how long is it going to take to put Sangal down in the middle of the AWP.
Do wonder as well whether or not the B side of the map is going to see much play on CT. You know, when I think about anchors and what their responsibilities are, yeah, yes, it is about holding on to the bomb site. Yes, it is about waiting until bomb is spotted on the other side of the map before you commit to rotates. But sometimes as well, it is about fighting for additional information so that your teammate can make a more informed decision.
Yeah. And well, B side of the map is not going to see any play right now, Michael. Got 5 players starting off on the A side. They were really hoping that 3D Max would go for a long hit, but instead it's going to end up being a more spread out approach, and CTs will now look to do the same. Really gaining ground late into the game is maybe a little bit tougher, but LNZ now contesting in the middle. This was, of course, not a buy coming out. They only had the 3 weapons they saved earlier.
Oh, this is a great smoke here for Sammy. Oh, and it got worse. It got worse.
Timing on that one can be tricky. Of course, smoke spread a little bit more in CS2 towards the 3-second mark or so, but now the question is, are you going to be able to actually find these players in B? LNC knows what's coming over his way, and he's unchecked, uncleared, even goes fighting for more, and that's going to be a third collected up. XSC's all alone is not ready at all, especially with the AWP having tagged him up through the wall. He's got very little to do over here, and he knows it.
How quickly things can just shatter in front of you. How quickly the round can turn. All it took was this double setup where, you know, they hadn't invested alongside those 3 saved weapons. They tried to use those pistols as best they could, but those rifles leant over to B, and I mean, the setup there for LMZ is perfect. A little bait and switch, and they get their hands on as many rifles as they had coming in. They still have that AWP in play as well. 3D Max, I don't think they realize that this was just 3 weapons and 2 saved. But they're going to be kicking themselves that they've lost to those 3 guns that they couldn't track down at the end of the last.
That's also completely on Gravity, by the way. I mean, Gravity should absolutely be checking with that angle in that position. But, hey. That is what it is. I have to say, the fact that 3D Max don't have some of these protocols down, right? Like, maybe it's just as simple as, hey, we're playing warriors, so our comms are loose, but if you don't have your protocols down about who's going to be checking into these positions, whether you're going for mid to be push and whatnot, why are you picking into Dust 2?
It just felt like the timing was mismatched, because I think Marco was supposed to Molotov LNZ's position.
Right.
Because he seemed very ready to throw that Molotov even as his teammates were taking contact, but it just, yeah, it seemed mismanaged, mistimed. It's been clear that Sangal have looked the better team comms and teamwork-wise. Remains to be the case even on 3D Max's pick.
Joko was met by a T-side Molotov deployed by the CTs as well, so he's not feeling too happy about that. That extra time does actually end up becoming a factor. Meanwhile, XCloud's found by the lurk of Lucky, and now Lucky's going to continue forward. Nate is great, and LNZ should have an easy kill as a result, but now Lucky keeps it going, and Maka can trade before Lucky can be taken down by the swinging Goose player. That's going to be only Youngster, and in 1-on-3, he's got nothing to do here.
Yeah, it may seem, you know, inconsequential when you really think about like the actual execute coming out from 3D Max, but Lucky being able to slip in through CT like that and cut off XCloud just means that the CT players have to worry about so much. You know, when they're fighting from long to not only defend long, but then also try and defend the site, they have to worry about both angles of elevation. You know, that's something you have to worry about sometimes with the older Vanguard smokes, but it's just so many angles to try and manage, especially when you have a player at Goose. You can't just kind of give up the spot, because then that Goose player just gets hard cleared, and you're kind of selling him down the river. A really well-designed round here from 3D Max. Just sewing in all that extra chaos. Sangal have been good when it's been a more conventional approach, but add in something a little bit extra, and maybe that's how you topple them on the defense.
You can certainly see what's going on as far as a little bit of unfamiliarity, I think, to the map is very clear right now with Sangal, and that is to be expected with how few reps that they actually have on it. Only one played so far. Molotov in the meanwhile won't really do too much. Maka can get away safely. XCloud can't say the same for him. That deep Molotov keeps him in an awkward position, and that'll be taken down. Sammy as well. Not ready at all for a play to be made in through the mid doors. Gravity catches him off. It's a 3-on-5 yet again. Sangal realistically in a position where they'd like to think about saving, but that might not even be an option.
It's all on Youngster. He has no real easy way to retreat and nowhere to go. The way he dodges the flash, but instantly destroyed by Joko. And that should give up the round. Jota still trying to take these fights in through middle, but that is ill-advised. A 1-on-5 to try and save, and that will not fall their way. Just like that, 3D Max are right back in it on their map pick, finding a little bit more success and stringing rounds together and keeping players alive at the end of many of these rounds. I don't think they're going to be dissatisfied with how quickly they have flipped the script onto Sangal.
Yeah, Sangal are definitely struggling to actually have variation in their CT side play, right? You know, you see the XCloud trying to get aggressive over there in the middle is largely unsupported. There's no one coming in through short. We haven't seen any short boosts or anything like it either. You know, once or twice Jonas fed in the long push as well, but same with B tunnels. It's just, it is very standardized basics for Dust 2 CT side and nothing more beyond that so far.
Now, I will have my concerns moving into 3D Max's CT side, but if they continue to build here on T, then there may not be as much of an issue. You may not have problems start to arise.
7 feels like a comfortable place to be honest.
Yeah. 7 or 8 is really objective here for 3D Max, and very achievable with the way that they have been playing. But if we were to take anything away from Ancient and to serve that in parity, you know, there were a lot of moments where, you know, they were set up in positions where they could have traded off each other when they got aggressive or when they were contesting what Sangal were doing on the attack. But they were frequently losing those fights. I think that's one of the things that 3D Max has done a lot better job on here on Dust is their spacing looks a lot better. They're finding trades if it's even necessary.
Wow. Normally, you like to see the USBs get a headshot or two. You know, just a little bit of reassurance for your own heart.
Keep it a little spicy as well, you know.
Yeah. 3D Max like it bland. The only condiment they use is salt. They've never even heard of curry powder, let alone garam masala.
Okay, well.
You gotta get the Pakistani out sometimes.
Gotta remind them at certain points, like culturally, we may have different things that we see food with. Garlic salt, by the way, great.
Garlic salt is pretty good, actually. You know what? I'll give you that. I agree with you.
Bad for the vampires. Great for the
It's true.
taste buds.
It's true. Must suck for vampires, actually. Garlic is golden for cooking, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's actually great.
Yeah.
Maybe that was why those old folklores used to exist. It was just people that didn't like certain types of food, and it's like they must be a monster of some kind.
Or maybe it's more like someone who's just getting really sick of people not bringing up garlic, and they're like, hey, it helps keep the vampires away.
I'm just drying it in the sun, actually.
It's like the best marketing campaign ever. Just someone makes vampires, and that's how just thousands of years of vampire history starts.
Yeah,
Because someone wanted more garlic.
Can't believe Big Garlic got away with that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there's no keeping the monsters at bay in this series. Sangal may have started with a wooden stake, ready to beat these, I don't know, demons on 3D Max.
Did it end up having splinters in it? Like, was the wood eucalyptus? Like, what's going on over here? What
Just
happened
need-
to the stake?
You know, a wooden stake is nice, though. But this is why people say never to invite a vampire into your home, because apparently they're not allowed to go to the front door or something. It's some weird reason. They open the door.
I like that. I think folklore-wise, I think that makes a lot of sense, because it's sort of the idea is that evil only comes into your house when you're invited in, right? So the vampire is sort of representative of that and everything like it and whatnot. But yeah, the point is, guys, use garlic. It's great. It really is. And that's
but they also opened up the door to Dust 2, and, well, the vampires are very much in the house now.
This is true. And 3D Max coming through, and they're looking like they want to own the house. They want to buy property over there. And they're not going to do it in money. They're going to do it in blood, because that's their currency.
Yeah, I mean, 3D Max are playing very well at the moment. You know, just playing some nice shoulder-to-shoulder Counter-Strike. I don't think they're really being disrupted too much on like the way that they're approaching defaults. So I mean, they've been still hitting some nice shots, but when they are losing the rounds, they are kind of blowing up in their faces. You know, like a small micro decision or a one missed fight, and suddenly 3D Max have all the runway they need to actually continue scaling.
I'm definitely with you on that one, Michael. And look, this Counter-Strike discussion is really important, but I actually have something even more important to ask you about. Because I just remembered something. This is something we say over here, which is that if mosquitoes bite you a lot, we say that you've got sweet blood, right? So do you guys have any similar sayings over there, or you know, sort of maybe back in Hong Kong or anything like it?
God, I am probably the worst person to ask about this. I've always had a very bad way of phrasing things. Like, I always make it more complicated than it needs to be. So I've never really lent into like folk sayings or the like, and most of them are very westernized, very I don't know, just very cliche, I guess. If I had to make them. So sorry.
Well,
I actually can't provide you with much insight.
Well, I'm just wanted to hear about that, but you know what? Sweet blood is definitely one of those things where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that's my copium. That's why mosquitoes are on me." And right now, it feels like all those mosquito bites are coming through for Sangal as well. And unfortunately, they need to go out. They need to find some, ointment to rub on them, whatever. They need to figure this out for Dust 2. And we're gonna leave you guys with that one after a small break. We'll be back though. Don't go anywhere. Dust 2 will continue. I promise. We're not just ending it here with vampires. there you go.
Nope.
We figured out how to stake the vampires after all, and Sangal are going to try and adjust with that.
Yeah, maybe try and stake their claim on this series as a whole. Already a map up after winning on Ancient. But 3D Max are back into the vengeance on their own pick on Dust 2. 1 round advantage, but they have certainly been feeling themselves. They've certainly been in stride on the attack. And once again, they'll be able to stage the round very similarly to some that have gone by. This time, you know, it's the more standard approach. Take over mid, see if you can flood it with utility, get reactions out from those CTs, make them worried.
It's going to be a faster play in through short, and now Samey's here to try and intercept, this time without the AWP. Flashes are good, though. Molotov will keep the T's away, and right now, that might actually be enough to reroute them completely. The traded incendiary isn't really worth it for a goose pop, and it will be a re-execution out. Now they've got themselves the Vanguard smokes going in as well. LNZ's back towards Goose. That might be unexpected, and with Samey revealing position with a flashbang, that could be big. Meanwhile, Samey peeks forward. I'm surprised he even gets one, but now LNZ actually flashed up at the same flash that kept Joko blind, but Joko recovers just a little bit faster.
Now, the question is, do you want to contest this? I mean, this game has been close enough as is. But being a man down, some teams would start to creep themselves away. Joko ripping off ahead of xCloud, and at the moment, unfortunately, Jota was too far up long to really think about saving. Youngster as well caught on his retreat and getting spammed through those doors, and he's being pounded down. There is no escape. Youngster getting 2 on his exit, but no weapons saved over. 3D Max are just continuing to roll the punches, and they are consistently finding those openers. Even if it comes at the cost of one player, they are very quick on his trades. They're not being thrown into any discomfort when it comes to these executes.
Yeah, it's a lot of disrupting utility and everything coming out as well from Sangal, but it doesn't feel like Sangal is actually ever able to find the kills cleanly and retreat back, right? Samey gets one, immediately traded. LNZ puts himself in a position to try and fight off of a Goose position, which, you know, felt like it might have gone overlooked, but then he gets flashed off as well. And now as the B-side hit comes forward, unless Youngster comes alive with a double kill from an MP9, which seems unlikely, but is now possible and very much executed with the help of LNZ. This is becoming a very dangerous round. Maka all alone, 2 players are low, but they swing out and, well, Maka doesn't even find a single frag there.
LNZ did so much work on that scout. I mean, switching out to the pistol as well. Just doing the most. Sure, it was the SMG that kind of funneled as distraction, but he landed so many tags. He weakened up everyone on that B-side approach, and this time when they try and quickly capitalize on a B-side play, Youngster doesn't falter, and he had backup this time over as well.
It's a lot easier to fight up against that when you've got a gun in your hand. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, Lucky finds himself a quick frag, but it is traded out with another shot. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
where's
he
your
does
heart?
take a leg, at least.
Yeah, he does take a leg. That's the piece I was talking about. Youngster, in the meanwhile, has had a piece of his mind taken away from him. xCloud now looks to fight back, but the trades are good, and Samey's gonna keep it going for more. Flashbang inwards as well, awkward throw, but that's still not gonna stop him. Samey wants to keep the fight in his own hands.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe he kept fighting. He kept continuing to force that issue. And now Lucky, with his low HP, thrown into a clutch. It's all on timing and whether or not LNZ's gun barrel will be spotted. Doesn't look likely. Lucky now out in the open, but they don't know for certain that Lucky's this low HP player, and Lucky still finds the headshot, but Samey assembling that CZ in time. It will end 6-6 before we go into that second half. Let's see how it turns out after the break.
Perhaps a surprise to see a 6-6 scoreline between Sangal and 3D Max. 3D Max really looked like they were bringing it all together, but a force buy, or well, not even that, a half buy, is what puts Sangal back in contention.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty decent recovery, all in all, and one of them came off of the saved weapons that 3D Max were able to hold on to. You know, Sangal could have ended the half a lot more poorly. Xcloud still taking a lot of fights in through mid, and some of these were forced his way, but Maka is now ripping heads to right back, and a man advantage found here for 3D Max, but they also cannot escape, so they'll just keep fighting forward, and they just keep popping heads. Right now, pistols are looking grand here for 3D Max. It has been CT pistols aplenty, and it's looking like that will maintain the case here on Dust 2. 3D Max, some nice shots, and this time, Maka shows up.
Glad to see Maka's been showing up a little bit as far as individual sense as well. Obviously, calling it that first half looked to be very smooth after the first few given to try and figure out the structure from Sangal as well. But 7th round now secured. Sangal likely to go for an eco over here, so should be 8 on the board for 3D Max. It's exactly what you want to see. Aye, that's not what I want to see. The dreaded match paused.
Ah, right. I thought you were gonna call out the buy, like the fact that they were saving on Glocks. I'm like, wait, isn't that normal?
No. if there was a buy to call out, it would be 3D Max's, where I might want to come through and say, you know what, Maka, you should be on a pistol, a USB.
I think it is strange. You know, we've seen the economy shift. You know, with some active balance changes from Valve, whether it's the M4 being more affordable, the Malt being more affordable, but also slightly nerfed. And the
bomb plant. Yeah,
the bomb plant into, I guess, lost round via diffuse bonus, I guess.
Yeah.
That T-sides used to operate around. All of those have been adjusted, but I still see a lot of second round force buys from teams that get the bomb plant down. It doesn't feel as though teams are willing to give up that space. It doesn't feel like the change has been drastic enough that I think the teams will sort of make use of it.
I don't actually think it was about giving up the second round force buys. I think the reason why the $600 matters is because you can't... Like, there's no situation where all of your players can buy Galil and armor with $600. That's sort of what comes in. I think having a force buy in the second round is not necessarily the worst thing for the T side, like just in terms strategically and meta-wise. I think that actually... I actually quite like the fact that now it doesn't feel... And this is an uneducated opinion in the sense that I haven't sat down to do the research, but just based off of vibes, it feels like we're getting 2 pistol rounds now instead of just the 1, if that makes sense, right? If the CT side wins the first pistol, then you're still going to the next one, where CT has a slight advantage, but, you know, at least it's not a worse buy than the T's over here. So it's one of those, like, okay, it's sort of this weird both teams are in a force buy situation and everything, right? It's a progression into the gun rounds. And again, this is purely off of vibes. I probably will not agree with that if I think about it, but yeah.
Yeah. I will agree to disagree on that. Now is maybe not the time. Oh, maybe this is the time of the place. We started to get out of the freeze time, and then it's back. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that, because I always think about the ideal of ideal buy versus ideal buy. And with MR12, we've already had a reduction in those rounds. And to be honest, I thought the economy had to address that. You know, even if the meter for what is an ideal buy is only like 4,400 or 4,900 on a CT side. Yeah. Where you're not getting every single thing you could possibly want, but you're getting most of the utility that you need to take control of territory. That to me is more important in the long term. But we'll see how it develops. I do like that Valve are engaged and receptive to the ideas that are being put out, and they're trying to find solutions themselves. And
I do hate the incendiary change, I won't lie to you.
Yeah,
I think it's so overkill.
I think it is a little strange to have such a big dip. Like, first off, the Molotov is cheaper than an incendiary, and it works better.
And like a lot better. It's not a little bit better. It's a lot better.
It spreads faster, more consistently, does more damage per second and lasts longer. So,
like, personally, I would like it if the CT side incendiary just maybe wait. T-side Molotov does more damage? What?
I believe so.
No. That's not true. That used to be a thing for a little
yeah,
while.
I'm thinking about the
opponents.
old. Yeah, I'm thinking about the old bug. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. No, but I actually think if the CT side Molotov did a little bit more damage, right, so that it did the same amount of damage as the T side Molotov does across 7 seconds, but in 5.5, I think that would be a good compromise. Or alternatively, just have the, just have like the area reduction only. I personally like the time reduction. I just don't want there to be, like, I want it to do more damage personally. I think reducing time and reducing area does make it so that the Ts are not as stalled, and you actually do need to think about the Molotov usage a little bit more.
I would just think, that seems like a total waste of R&D. If you're spending so much money designing a small incendiary grenade, why is it worse than the makeshift alternative?
Like,
that is if 100% cheaper as well.
Michael just comes in and starts criticizing the military-industrial complex for not doing a good enough job.
Surely this reflects poorly on them, right? It's like they've designed a poor product.
They used a green bottle. Okay, it's just a green bottle. That's all. It's just a random bottle of alcohol they had Ryan lying about. You had 22 years of R&D to make. Actually, you know what? How long was 1.6 in source out? You had 14 years of R&D to make an incendiary.
The Molotov, yeah, it only came out in Go, right? So
yeah, that's why it's like 14 years for counted, like whoever was on the CT side, right? And the T's just respond. It's like, hey, we've got a bottle.
And we are playing a video game. It doesn't have to be.
It's actually very
grounded
funny,
in logic.
There's a company where, there's a telecom company. I won't use names, obviously, but it's the biggest telecom company in Pakistan, and they got a couple of years ago. I think it must have been like 2019 or maybe even 17. They were going to make like this revolutionary new product, and they were putting like genuinely like probably upwards of $50 million to create this and market this and all of this stuff, because that was going to be the future of the company and how they get all the market share. This product was going to make so you can have free calls, free internet for this product, free messaging, free all of this stuff, and if you were just on their network. And they wanted to sort of develop that eventually into e-commerce and everything once they got the people on board. When they developed this and they released this and they made this entire thing where they even rebranded like the entire company for a little while to that product's name, the rest of the telecom companies, what they did was they just made WhatsApp free. So all of those massive infrastructural costs and networking costs and all of these like R&D costs that came into it, the other side said, you know what? Here, you can just have WhatsApp for free. There you go. And that product flopped and was never spoken of again.
An attempt was made, but a better alternative was indeed.
So green bottle.
Waiting around the corner. Yeah.
Well, we do have a resumption of the gumption, and Sangal will hopefully be, not be pulling out any green bottles overhead. They shouldn't have the money for that, but they're pulling together a couple of scouts and some beagles. Maybe LNZ can get up to some madness. Never mind. He really can't.
Yeah, or maybe Maka's just going to have his number. Great shooting on the scout and just continuing to fight through those mid doors. Swinging wide, great nade from Joko, and these SMGs should just be able to lap up the rest of the kills. Just going into the meat grinder are Sangal, and Joko and Gravity will be able to get 2 apiece on those MP9s. Maybe getting a couple Tech 9s in belt as well. 3D Max off to a pretty solid start here on this CT side, not losing much out of that second round force that Sangal did in fact go for. And they went into that second round force without the bomb plant. I think that is, for all that discussion and all that waffle we just went on, they didn't even have the bomb plant, so.
Now, it's definitely one of those situations where now you're even purchasing a Beagles and Tech 9s and these P250s. It doesn't feel worth it at all, but maybe X-Cloud can make them eat bullets and me eat my words.
They just kept fighting him. They weren't scared. And maybe should have been.
Lucky he's not scared either. he knows that he's got a job to do over here, but LNC is the one to get a quick few shots in as well. Sami around the corner has the bomb as well. If he can get a quick frag over here, that could be big. Turn it back to a 2 versus 2 with Joda and xCloud to try and flank in from short, but instead it's going to be Lucky left on 1 HP.
Yeah, it's a little unlucky there for Sami. Would have expected more. Joda does rip his head clean off, but he was on that 1 HP. And Joda getting a double as well. Exorcist distracted by xCloud. Joda closing that gap, but the bomb in Joko's possession, and that SMG can be hyper mobile. He knows that xCloud shouldn't have armor. He shouldn't have the equipment to really be able to deal with this, but it's all about whether or not xCloud can escape with that package or not. He doesn't want to go close to that smoke. He's worried about getting spammed. And Joko firing a lot of warning shots, but xCloud now has that package into the smoke on 6 bullets, but Joko is very aware of that one gap around the edge of the smoke. It comes down close, that's for sure, but still maintaining into 3D Max ways. This would have hardly been a round to bring home to the parents. You would not have been too enthused with it coming down to a one-on-one. They're just happy that they still got the round win.
That's a really good flash from Joko as well, coming out of actually over there in that situation. It's hard to call for... It's hard to actually pull a flashbang out in a position like that when you could just be swinged early on, but the fact that he gets Joda completely blinded, xCloud is the second one peeking with lower HP as well, so yeah, well played by him. I can't believe xCloud pushes through the smoke. That does seem a little bit insane
outrageous.
To me.
Yeah.
There's no world where the guy's back towards long, right, without running and making noise.
Well, yeah. Also, he heard him spamming like 2 seconds before that.
No, 100%. So unless he's expecting it to be like a, oh, the guy's gone back towards long or something like it, why wouldn't he be watching the smoke? Unless, again, only thing I can think of is xCloud is trying to do the good old, hey, ships in the night situation, both going past their own smokes, but that's just so ridiculous. While Sangal will be regretting the fact that they weren't able to convert that 1 versus 2 over here, they will still pull out their full buy. Sami. Ops go forward. Smoked off as well. Can't get the timing, and Exercise gets a spam. Very nicely done.
And he saw that it was an AWP, so he's going to go into that smoke and completely nab it. Gravity as well, pushing in through mid and finding the head of xCloud, but LNZ does find the trade. Maka aggressive on short, but able to escape. The jump didn't seem all too necessary. Maybe taking more damage on that retreat. Exorcise. He's looking on the ground, and he pulls his crosshair away from long, and Joda will capitalize. Exorcise, bud. What are you up to? 3-on-3 now available here for Sangal that could see massive recovery for this T side.
In the meanwhile, Joda's going to be able to catch out Maka in this position as well. Joda's not going to realize that Maka wants to fight into him, though. Maka's pulling off his own Sami around. Repeaks on repeaks, and now only Young's left does find the one, but now with the flank being activated, Joko can shut him down. Yeah, Exorcise on long was... you need to understand he was playing like a real opera, which is real operas know that the second you look away, that's when people peek. So he was baiting that out to try and get the quick flick over. He just
yeah, sure.
Now, why was he looking away for 5 seconds at short? I don't know, but
I'm sure he's laughing and smiling and thanking his teammates for saving the round. Because if they had lost that round, he would have blamed himself wholeheartedly. Even the fact they got like as close as it did, I'm sure he blames himself for.
Oh, nice shot from LNC, but not on the head. Maka probably doesn't want to contest this one anymore.
See how much production they can get out of these weapons. They made a lot less work for them. Maka, big miss. I mean, that seemed like that should have been an absolute sitter, but now they're going to try and collapse on the mid B, and Gravity, Joko trying to stand their ground. It's Joko that's still ripping heads, but tagged down to half HP, and his reinforcements is segmented off.
What are these players looking at? Youngster looks away in the middle of that duel over there as well, and now xCloud might be unexpected. If he can find a kill on a player trying to cross back over to B to provide support, that'd be big, but you're still fighting into Joko in here. LNZ Scout needs to get a quick headshot, and as they are starting to scale up, xCloud misses everything. Sami, good for the one, and the bomb can be planted. LNZ, however, is looked away, and that means the Scout will be taken down by Exorcise. Lucky, fighting back in. Some good headshots being hit by the P250 so far, I won't lie to you, but not really a world where they win the round.
Once again, not maybe not the most comfortable, but then there's someone to come in with a critical double kill. It was Maka on that A-bomb site when that was seeing siege, and this time it's Joko after he loses his site partner. Really nicely handled between those two.
Why did Youngster look away there?
not
Maybe
too
expecting
sure.
a flashbang. That seems like the only... Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're expecting a flashbang to come in from another B player to let the window guy re-peek, I guess it makes sense. He also technically did have another player from behind him covering off window, theoretically. It's a hard angle to cover off from.
Also, maybe expecting that someone would start to jump through the CT smoke. You know, there are possibilities. But all of them may look like excuses when it really comes down to it. Sangal still heavily trailing. 3D Max is looking great coming into the second half. Joko this time unable to muster much of a defense. Some damage done, but that angle was not conducive to stopping them coming out of the tunnels. And Joda as well, covering the extremities and still serving as this lurk. This should just be a call to save here by 3D Max, but they do whittle it down back to a 3-on-4. Starting to maybe turn some attention to the possibility, but no, saving these weapons will become the priority. Sangal finally breaking blood on their T side.
And it comes off the back of Joko completely flubbing his spray with the M4A1. Something that doesn't seem likely to be duplicated, considering the fact that he is 15-10 right now. He's had a pretty good game overall. It's just a round where things go wrong, and that happens. 3D Max will also be able to buy into the next round. They will be okay. You're okay here.
Yeah, so many of the other maps have been tuned so that you can't do stuff like that, right?
Good to worry about for CS2 for sure.
If there was one map that I wish that did happen to, Dust would actually be one of them, you know? I don't think... If they had planted at the back side of the site,
Yeah.
I could see it. I could see how they might survive. Like, directly underneath the window behind all the terrain, I could see it.
Are you bringing the laws of physics into this now?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that seems to be how they determine how bombs...
Those are haystacks over there. I feel like I should let you, like, remind you.
No, they're not. They're bricks.
They're bricks.
Yeah.
Are you sure they're not haystacks?
I'm pretty sure they are bricks. They make like concrete steps when you run on them, so...
Right, I'm Googling.
If the sound design is to be believed, they are not haystacks.
Dust to B site. You are right. Why have I thought these are haystacks for years? Why are they blowing up bricks?
Ancient bricks.
Ancient makes sense. It's like a hereditary site or something, right? But yeah, okay, I don't know, man. I know.
We don't question why they're doing what they're doing. Just that we enjoy watching them do it.
This is going to be a rough push to come forward. Marcus covering it off with XSCs. Flashbang's not going to do anything, and now XSCs can swing out again. Repeat from Maka is certainly possible, and, well, he's been giving it so far. Why would he stop now?
Yeah, that corner smoke didn't do what it was supposed to, huh? And neither has that smoke from the T's either. That's hardly an angle they have to worry about. They re-smoke off the corner, but Maka is simply undeterred. Knew that they got that smoke into the longhouse as well. Sangal will really have to go for this. They do have some residual cash floating about. You know, worrying about saving should not be the priority. They know that they want to keep 3D Max away from 12.
I don't know if that's going to be an option. The problem is it's Gravity that you're trying to find up into, and Gravity's just going for the straightforward jump spot. Good Molotov as well to try and funnel them back in towards the B doors, but they've gone right through the Molotov, and that's where Joko can shut him down. Joko and Gravity put Sammy in a bit of a lonelier spot, and Sammy now looking away. He doesn't realize he's got a man right next to him. He doesn't need to feel lonely at all. Sammy, don't worry about it. We're all coming to give you a hug. A CT hug.
I have to say, it almost feels like a similar story coming into this Dust 2. You know, both teams that have picked the respective maps have just looked more cohesive on a team play basis, on an independent merit as well. You know, they're hitting better shots. They are, I think, communicating more efficiently, and the other team hasn't had as much of a spark. I think Sangal did a decent job on that CT side, but here on T, they are encountering a whole number and a whole slew of problems. They're getting broken down by some of these double setups that 3D Max are opening with.
Good nade for Lucky to start off, and he wants to finish a quick kill as well. Adjustment not there. Single peaks have been good so far for Sangal to bait out shots, but unfortunately they very seldom actually get kills after getting the information on it, so maybe missing out on some isolation exercises. If Gravity can find the kill onto Samey here, that could actually end up cutting open the map very heavily, but Samey, in the meanwhile, will have Gravity just run away from him, and they are going to have to try and execute onto A through short without an extra frag being found in the middle. Is actually going to be an A-side hit, though. It does feel like you're only trying to put Jota into a position to try and fight into CT instead, but Jota is dead, and so are the rest of your players. 3D Max are knocking at 13, and honestly, they're practically already here. 4 versus 2, and at least Youngster can extend for a little while longer. Fights back, and that should be enough to guarantee a bomb plant.
They don't have a smoke for the cross, so it's still a very big worry about actually making this journey. There are 2 ops that are trying to train themselves on those doors to capitalize on this bomb not crossing, but they throw it over, but Samey's been dropped as Lucky peeks in, and this Youngster in a 1-on-3, 15 seconds, and waiting for 3D Max to make a mistake, but they will not give him an inch. They won't give him that space. They won't allow that territory. It is a 13-7 collection here from 3D Max, bouncing right back into our series and tying us up 1-1 apiece.
We see some great stuff from XSCs coming out of that series. We'll have a map and Gravity as well, being able to pick things up later on. I have to say 3D Max looking much more cohesive than what I expected coming out of Ancient. Firepower-wise as well, weren't really backing off in any situation. It just felt like they had full control over everything in that game once Sangal's first 4 rounds were out of the way.
I think as well, when they started to really get into their groove on that T side, once they understood that X-Fab was going to continue taking these fights, they used more utility to get the territory they were looking for before they sieged into an execute. I think they learned from a lot of those early rounds of failure, and were able to salvage their T side half, and then when they got into CT, they basically could do no wrong. You know, they really were finding a lot of efficiency out of their anchors, and as well even the players that were looking to fight forward.
The question now comes in, going into Anubis, what is the adjustment going to be from the Sangal side? Is there anything you want to see more of? You know, personally for me, honestly felt like X-Cloud wasn't able to get the same impact either after the first few rounds were over, so we weren't really seeing all that much. But our player to watch in terms of mock-up from the Qadiyah side actually went, yeah, I think he did pretty well. Individually, maybe not necessarily the flashiest, but some great calls being made at least across that map.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you need out of Maka, is just stability, some opportunities to find opening picks, and you know, just basically reliability. When he starts slow, like he did on Ancient, you start to worry about, is that going to affect his calling? You know, he's a player that can get and throw himself into the mix very frequently, and it was just nice to see him have an AWP in this map. So I think, you know, moving into an Anubis where I think both teams have shown that they have good rehearsal, they have good practice, the communication looks cleaner on the maps that they are comfortable with. Anubis being this kind of shared territory in its comfortability leads us to what it could be the highlight of the series. You know, we should see better looking Counter-Strike from both teams, in my opinion. Like, this has been a staple for Sangal since the formation of this kind of newer look version of themselves.
Well, listen, we're going to have to find out to see whether that's going to be the case or not. We are going to the decider. It's going to be a tough one to find out who's eliminated in the playoffs right now in the European side of things. And we're going to be back with more of that action after just a bit. Stay tuned. Anubis coming up next. Welcome back to the ESL Challenger League European Edition, season number 47. Playoffs continue, and we are going into the third map between 3D Max and Sangal. Sangal looking dominant in map number 1. 3D Max is doing the same in map number 2. Could it be both teams now looking dominant in Anubis?
Can that even happen? I don't think that can happen, actually. That both teams can be dominant. I think we'd call that a closely contested game then, if that was the case. And I imagine that's what Anubis will bring us, in fact. You know, this is a map that has seen quite a lot of play for both respective squads. It's, you know, they don't shy away from picking it. They don't mind if it's in the decider of series, and this is actually where they are able to find a lot more success when we look back at some of their best of threes that they've been able to have. So I am expecting more cohesive play from both squads, because it does feel as though we've had a very hot start from one squad and a bit colder from the other, and then, you know, that kind of sits on the inverse when we go into Dust 2 as well. I don't want any of that to happen, effectively. You know, I want these rounds to be close and gritty, kind of similar to the way that Ancient was, but maybe with a little bit more variance in the success rate. You know, I want 3D Max to come in. I just want an exciting game, because I think when we get through to these playoffs, it is all about the culmination of weeks of play, of as the season is developed, how well you are going to shape out as a roster. You cannot afford to have players go missing. You cannot afford to squander that opportunity, because this is what it's all been building towards, and this is just in the lower bracket. You know, you're already out without lives. There are no second chances past this point. You've already eaten through one of your lives, and yeah, Sangal, 3D Max, you know, those are the opponents ahead of you that you have to beat past.
Well, we've already talked about how we think that 3D Max has got a pretty good grip over Anubis. It's one of the maps that they used to sort of establish their foundation initially as well. And it's a map that they like to pick into as well, right? So we know what we're supposed to be getting from them. Michael, what does Sangal need to do to have a better showing than they did on Dust 2?
I think for them, it has to be far... Either... They tried to tiptoe around taking fights. I think there was only a couple of players that were willing to do so, and that was namely Xfloud, really. I'm trying to think of who else, actually. Jota, maybe.
Sammy had a round or two, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe Sammy, but they all played fairly defensively on that CT side, and I don't think that's how they win this game. You know, I think the strategy at their base, if we have to compare rosters, looks better on 3D Max more consistently than it does for Sangal. And, you know, we're moving into another map that it can be fairly brawly, fairly chaotic, fast rotates that are available to Ts. You know, one of the more T-sided maps in the pool. For them, they would want to start T-side, but I think even if we go into that CT, we need to see them sort of actively engage in some of those more chaotic circumstances. 3D Max looked far too comfortable on that Dust 2, just staging into the execute. It didn't feel like they were often disrupted, and I just don't think Sangal can win that way.
I think there's definitely going to need to be a little bit more Brownian motion coming through. You're right. You know, maybe a little bit more aggression from pretty much everyone. I'm also curious to see how Anubis develops over here with the new incendiaries, like I mentioned, Michael. Because personally, for me, trying to contest into Dark as a CT side player becomes a lot more difficult when you are actually having that. You're probably using your smokes a little bit more early and maybe saving the incendiaries for late rounds when you want to try and retake into Dark. So it'll be curious to see how that one shapes out. I actually am hoping to see a few interesting bits and pieces of utility being used by either team for that one in particular. But then also beyond that, I don't know how much the new changes actually affect Anubis in particular. So yeah, we're going to see a lot more of the same, but hopefully the same should be including CT side aggression from both teams, not just Sangal. We also want to see it from Maka and company, and that does feel like it's going to be a key sort of a key factor going forward as well. As far as the French side are concerned, Ecstasies and Gravity need to show up again. They look very good on Dust 2. We need to see the same thing over here on Anubis as well.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's the rifling cores that or the rifling duos that I'm really looking at. It's Ecstasies, Gravity, like you're mentioning. You know, it's Xfloud, probably Jota, if I had to put the two players that I'm really looking towards. And I just need to see consistency out of these more aggressive pieces, because I think that is where both these teams seem to thrive. You know, if you allow some extra space for players like Joko to succeed, or Lucky in sort of more those mid-round moments, that's where things can get really, really hectic and actually falls into the favor of a 3D Max. Same can be said for Sangal when, you know, you have Sammy or Youngster as well. I don't think has looked bad in sort of these mid-round moments, but less so in the initial duels. I think he likes to have some more information before his fights.
I'd love to see LNC as well, just to see the kind of calls that he wants to try and go for. Obviously, a very young IGL. Not one of the players from NIP Youngsters who I would have expected to actually become an IGL successfully. So it really did feel like a lot of the criticism for him back in, I would like to say 2021, right around the time we had a major bracket as well and everything. It felt like most of the criticism was that this guy hasn't mentally been able to adjust to the tier 1 game, and the fact that he's actually transitioned to being an IGL only 3 years after that is quite surprising to me personally. Obviously came in with a lot of promise, and you can see some of that in the server individually as well, but the question is, can he help his team convert forward? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will look back at the NIP experiment with LNZ with too many kind words, nor will have taken it too seriously, because there's several players that seem to escape NIP that are doing relatively well for themselves. Looking to bounce back is LNZ and that Sangal squad after losing to 3D Max's pick on Dust. 3D Max starting out this T side on Anubis with a very slow pace, just creeping their way in through mid, and they've got double player on either side of middle, but they'll already force back some aggression. Sangal have taken space through A main, but this will leave a vulnerability, but Jota's actually stopping them from pursuing or continuing over towards camera. They've got it down to a 3-on-5, but they can route straight towards Temple, and that's the sore spot. It's only Youngster in defense of that B bomb site, but he's already dealt with B main, so only worried about his flank now.
Yeah, it feels like he's going to be given assistance in time as well. Extra can just come in, and that is a very successful round for Sangal to come through. It felt like 3D Max's entire plans just fall apart one piece at a time. So hopefully not going to be signs of how this game is going to go, because 3D Max really looked completely toothless in that pistol round there.
Yeah, I mean, really nice plan set out from Sangal. 3 players pushing A main, 1 holding for the mid journey, and, you know, Youngster isolate on B. And if they weren't going to be quickly creeping through those canals, that's, you know, partially what the A players could have dealt with as well. Then Youngster didn't have to worry about as much. Nice sharp shooting.
Why are we seeing so many force buys? Like, I'm genuinely curious. I don't understand. Is this just our French team just doing that French team thing again back from 2016?
Sangal did it on their T side as well in Dust, right? So.
I know, it's just, I just don't know. Tech-9s at least make more sense than the double scout options that Sangal were going for. Jota and Mimo will be able to spot out. Lucky, but lucky. Actually adjust in time? I'm more than a little bit surprised about that, and Youngster is putting himself in a very difficult position. Tech-9's close range can take you down, head armor or not, and LNZ will come through to provide a little bit more assistance, and crossfire established. Now we'll peek forward. Tech-9 still watching out for him, and in fact with the MP9 spraying him down as well, LNZ has to be very careful now. He can be taken down with a headshot from any range. Damage dealt is good, but kills can't be found. The CTs stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, Youngster got all the reinforcements he needed in time. Tried to delay for as long as possible, but losing Jota so quickly, the reaction from Sangal, able to get there to reinforce the play. Got that smoke down towards B main. They had to jump through it on the side of 3D Max, but by the time they do so, there are 3 in defense of B. Kind of surprised that 3D Max continued to play forward on that side of the map. And if they were going to come to that, they basically had to come to that conclusion much quicker. Anubis, a map where you can just bounce between those bomb sites. The canals offer you so much in terms of these fast rotations that can be hard to keep tabs on. You know, the sound through middle can be a little awkward. Very difficult, especially if, you know, the best position for sound is in at those doors, but you can also get funneled out by Molotovs, smokes, their H that come your way. Information can sometimes be sparse for ZTs.
X5 wants to try and negate that sparsity of information, but
It's making splashes.
that's a lot of chip chop chop going on around. That's the only way I can find the splashes. Honestly, X5 though should be having this easy peasy. Got a little bit of company over here from Sammy as well to make sure that you're going to be given assistance, and without Kevlar, the P side is really not finding much. 3D Max in 3 rounds have found 1 kill. And they have bought in like every round, right? Like Tech-9's over here as well. You're expecting to find a little bit more damage. You're expecting to make their economy slightly weaker. This is not reassuring signs.
Alright, the first good looking buy though from 3D Max. And that will still be without its AWP. Still not something that they have to worry too much about. Sangal won't have an AWP trained onto Dark or just locking off a position. And they do have, on paper, the better buy. Sangal being economic, trying to treat this as a bonus. And getting a little frisky as well. Joda playing close to the smoke, but Joko's on the other side of it. Spamming away. Has to be careful he doesn't subtract too many bullets, but into the reload. Oh, they blow the smoke, and Joda will make great use of it. Just running down Joko. That is a perfectly orchestrated play. And an upgrade for Joda. He might even be able to escape through the canals if he finds good timing.
He doesn't want to escape. He wants to try and fight for more gravity around the corner. Will start to be forward. Joda could set himself up for a triple here if he just kept himself trained there. But now Maka waiting for Exorcise gives Joda time to fight back. Joda does find a little bit more damage, and with this you've got 3 T-Snap players who are very spread apart and very, very scared. Maybe rightfully so.
I mean, just rattled off their default. That smoke had all the signs needed to understand they were getting aggressive in the canals, but them blowing it open like that, that's gotta send a message. There were layers prepared.
Now the question is 3D Max, who are trying to set up out for the A-sign hit. Are they going to be contested before they start to relay the bomb over? Well, yes, they are. Question's been answered pretty quickly. Once again, only 1 kill found. Michael, this is disastrous. 3D Max are really not looking like a team that likes to pick Anubis at all.
Yeah, I mean, just very smooth, though, from Sangal. They're being proactive. They are not waiting and constantly reacting to what 3D Max are offering up. They are throwing in these different setups. Part of that would have been encouraged by the fact they still had an SMG, they still had a FAMAS, and they throw the lowest value weapon out that gets a whole lot of value out of its spot.
This is one of those situations where Sangal, I fully agree with the decision to not prioritize an AWP at any point soon. If you're going to continue to get aggressive like this or even threaten aggression like this, it's going to be really important for you to have those rifles. I wish we'd seen a bit more of this on Dust 2 from Sangal. That's exactly what we do think their strength sort of should be,
yes.
But
yeah,
you can see that they're just so much more comfortable on Anubis.
I think the cool part about this Sangal team is that when they are activated, when they are engaged, it's very rare that you see anyone shy away on the scoreboard. They're very much a team that win by committee, but it seems like when one person is on, all the rest are as well.
3D Max continue to remain off, however. Still not really finding too much of a hair. Like he gets some good damage, but Joda just backs off and flame on indeed. Looks like it might be just another round with just a single kill, and Makazin is going to be spotted. Sammy doesn't realize it, in fact. Sammy did see him, but didn't register him.
Yeah, okay, so this is weird. Makazin has disappeared in a bowl of smoke. But they're piecing it all together. There's only so many places he could have been. CTs had swarmed him. It's kind of wild that he even gets out, but they've still only got 3 kills in 5 rounds.
No, but you need to understand the progression for 3D Max, right? They're working on true teamwork. Every round, one more guy gets a kill. So Gravity's going to get a kill now, then Joker's going to get a kill in the next round. There you go.
This might be the worst team building exercise I've ever seen.
How was the team built? Well, no one's happy at the end of it.
But we did a cool sequence thing, so that was fun, I guess.
Sums up HR for big corporates, to be honest. I hated building exercises whenever I worked for one. It was the worst, dude. You know once what a team building exercise was for us, and I swear this is just them using interns for labor that they didn't want to do themselves. Team building exercise was, oh, it's going to be Children's Day. Why don't you guys go and set up games for all the kids who are going to be brought to the office because parents are bringing their kids there? Dude, we're all 19, 20 years old. We don't like children. We don't like your children especially.
You're not there yet in your lives, maybe. Yeah. See, I feel like you just came in with the wrong attitude. I loved team building exercises. Mainly because they weren't phrased as such. It was just like, let's go play football or something. Like, completely opt in. Didn't have to do it. But everybody wanted to. let's go bowling. You know, those are just cool. But I also didn't work in proper corporate things. You know, it was definitely a more social environment.
God, corporate was awful. Actually, I do remember.
This is not the time to drudge up your.
Listen, I see technical time on. I understand therapy session time. Damn it, it's gone. Okay, we're putting it away. Sangal clearly do not have a bureaucracy they want to report to. They have an agile work environment.
Yeah, hopefully no trauma dumping going on in the team comms at the moment. Oh, that they can actually display what they are made of on this map. At the moment, Sangal are just getting away with all too much. 3 kills, all that 3D Max have to offer up so far. And here's Gravity with his 4th. So far, it's all going according to plan. But he finds more than just the one. Sammy does come in for the counter kill, but Gravity is on a heater. Does so much damage to Sammy as well, and he's carved a path straight into this A play. This might finally come to fruition that 3D Max pull around together.
Youngster might be able to find a frag up ahead, though. Like, he's missed nothing. He's missed nothing. There you go. Okay, so Gravity has clearly just ruined the team now. And 3D Max is about to disband after this round.
Oh no, what a shame. We won a round.
On a serious note, though, I'm really surprised that Gravity actually found killing a bit onto LMZ. That flashbang was terrible.
A flash is only there to help you on the fight. It's not there to win it for you. So.
I literally dodged the flash and I had a full second before he took.
Oh no, yeah, I'm with you. The flash was bad, but it comes down to a straight up fight that Gravity wins. I mean, he got 2 3/4 of a kill. Just completely destroyed the mid play and the firm setup. Sangal. Once they weren't the team that was aggressing into 3D Max aggressing into them, suddenly the French strike in with a round.
Oh, Sammy finds Gravity, and now that removes a lot of that mid-side aggression. I cannot believe that Maka moves forward while there's a Molotov on this side, so Sammy can't actually retreat anywhere either, so he would have to fight. Oh no.
They're throwing caution to the wind, but Sammy, he's the wind and he's picking it right up. He's been quick on that AWP, 10-1 so far. And X-Floud stood as that firm defender on the A-bomb side. Joko trying to pull this clutch together, but they are running right at him from those steps. Joko does find good timing around the pillar, but they're just ring around the Rosie consistently, but just eventually tracked down by Youngster. A commendable effort there from Joko, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. 3D Max try and jump straight through that mid-smoke into a semi-AWP that was fast as it could have been.
Sammy's been really impressive on some of those re-peak fights, actually. I have to say. I haven't seen the most super mobile AWPing coming out from him, but some of these positions where he just combat AWPing, taking 4 shots in 7 seconds, yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I think he's been doing a grand job, and no better exemplified by just not getting run down by what 3D Max saw as success in the round prior. Now they have to reorganize how they think about these rounds. That they'll want to play with pace. They want to make sure that they take control of these territories quickly. Otherwise, Sangal will more than likely aggress into them.
Youngster really wants to get aggressive from outside of that smoke, but he's not being given any flash or anything like it to actually help him do that. We'll be backing off, but now 3D Max, who've got on a lot of map control this time, without actually losing a single player, are in position to go to either site. Midspin emptied up, though, by Sangal. They want to just try and play the reinforce game, and reinforce they do.
50 seconds, and still no discernible path to be made over towards either side of the map. Seeds does seem to be gravitating over towards A, but they're still keeping their eyes over towards Dark and those canals. Joko, Molotov forward and not quite ready for the fight. They fight forward. They continue to push past it, and a descent out from middle to try and hunt down the trade. Maka even missing his shot on the AWP. This round has gone up in complete smoke. It's only Lucky with that bomb that runs in through middle, but he gets that player in the canals, and xCloud trades so quickly. Sangal right back into winning ways in back-to-back fashion, just emphatically closing 3D Max down.
If Lucky hadn't gotten that 1 kill in the end, we would have been back to a 1 kill per round average from 3D Max.
Yeah.
This is
Sorry,
a map. I mean, this is a map that 3D Max is on paper good at. This is a map that they have made their name on. This is a map that they have a deep strat book on.
And none of that seems to matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to matter whatsoever. I think this is one of the things about teams like Sangal. If we're thinking about, you know, their win conditions and the way they can sometimes pop off, this is actually one of those types of squads that would probably be, you know, if you interviewed the teams, touted as one of the more annoying teams to play against. Because they're willing to take fights. They'll continually disrespect what your default could look like. They want you to basically show them what your default is made of at times. And Sangal pushing those boundaries at the very start of the decider map in what is the last life that either of these teams could have in the lower bracket semifinals. It's not a time that 3D Max will have wanted to capitulate, but Sangal have exposed some weakness. And right
Sangal have created weaknesses in 3D Max. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, they're showing strength.
Samey's one of the players who've been flexing muscles all game long, and let's be honest, that's pretty much all of them. xCloud as well just takes the peek forward for another multi-kill. Why not just have one every round from someone? There you go. Sangal's figured it out. Let's just get multi-kills on the CT side. Easy.
Sometimes that might, in fact, be the game plan from Sangal, because they've been doing that in spades. Once again, nobody's really lagging behind. Players have hardly died in what has been 9 rounds of play now.
Until right now, I've never understood what the term in spades means. It clearly means that Sangal have spades in their hands because they're digging the grave of 3D Max at this stage. Well, that's the sound of a tech timeout coming in.
Yeah.
Get the couch ready, Michael!
Unsubscribe.
It's 4 years too late for that. Michael, were you watching Counter-Strike back when LDLC had Alex and Existence playing on the same team?
I would have, but I probably wouldn't have. I wasn't watching Counter-Strike like that.
Okay.
If you get, you know, I wasn't thinking about it too hard.
Back then, they used to have this round that I call the Existence rounds. I think Existence rounds were also something else, but...
I'm familiar with Existence rounds.
No. Are you talking about the Glock and you sit? Or are you talking about the half-buys, the weird half-buys you used to go for?
Mainly just that you would do nothing the first, like,
No.
minute
So
and
that's
a half.
that's the Exist rounds, actually. At least that's how I remember it. I might be wrong as well. But what I do remember, though, is Existence on LDLC used to go for these really strange buys, which was like third round in, so second round you'd eco, third round you would half buy with UMPs and Kevlar and some utility. And they were just trying to get super aggressive with that particular round and just have one specific set strat. And sometimes they'd win it, sometimes they wouldn't, but if they wouldn't win it, they'd get a lot more damage out and put the T-side economy weak, and they'd have an AWP in the next round regardless. So that was why they used it away. Now, what's really weird is I feel like 3D Max has been experimenting with something similar over here. Because every time they've been on an eco, every time there's been something like it, even if they're not on max loss bonus, etc., they're still pulling together just Tech 9s and P250s and a couple of flashes, no Kevlar over here as well. It's just kind of strange. It's not
think we
your
are also-
traditional half buy either.
I think we're also in the unfortunate position where, you know, when it comes to technical timeouts and online officials, you have a certain amount of time that you are allotted, and 3D Max seem to be the one that are kind of engaged with having these technical issues, and so I do believe they are using some of their tactical timeouts to try and resolve the problems that they are having. Seems like Maka is the one that has departed, hopefully able to rejoin us soon, but it's a difficult position to be in.
Yeah.
3D Max already on the rear end of what is a pretty harsh beatdown on this decider map in the series, and engaged in technical issues as well on a map that coming into it they would have been confident on, but now everything seems to be thrown into a bit more uncertainty.
In all fairness, with the way that things are going, I am pretty certain that Sangal is climbing their way to a victory. But regardless, this is not how you want to lose, right?
Absolutely
You want
not.
to lose with all 5 players, with your IGL there, and not have any excuses for it. You want to have something to take away from it, actually have a conversation after the game about it and say, hey, what went wrong? How do we adjust this? This was supposed to be our, you know, one of our home maps originally. How have we let get to this point? And now, if you're put into a position where maybe you've got, Maka DC'd, we're having tech issues, everything, it feels bad.
I mean, this is a team that, I mean, just a couple months ago, were in the ESL Pro League round 2 single elimination bracket. You know, they got into the playoffs. They got out of their group stage, and you know they beat Seoul, they beat Fnatic, and they fell to Astralis. You know, this is a squad that, I mean, considering they made it to that height, and this is the route that they would have hope that they could be able to get their chance at ESL Pro League again through. For them now to be staring down the barrel of Sangal eliminating them, not even being in the conversation for that second place position out of the ESL Challenger League, because it's top 2 that make it through, and we've already seen Movistar succeed. You know, you would have expected 3D Max to maybe be in that conversation, but right now, it is not looking likely.
Sangal, on the other hand, though, if they can actually start to find a little bit more consistency in how great some of these individuals are looking, I think in particular, I would love to see more of folks being put onto Sammy, especially he's just such a fun opera to watch. This could be a team that certainly comes through with an upset route forward. You know, they're probably going to be going up against Aurora up next should they win here, and then Sinners afterwards. Aurora's maybe a little bit harder for them just matchup wise, but I could see them taking those 2 series.
I think so far, me with Sammy is that he's not been pushed to make, you know, be a playmaker, and that's fine, and that can work, and it is working for Sangal in this map. But you know, further down the line against some of the other teams, you know, maybe a Sinners as well, maybe an Aurora or a Rush B on the other side of this lower bracket, could be a team to force that out of him, and I'd be interested to see how that part of his game could develop. We're out of the technical pauses. 3D Max in with a buy, but it's Galil's, an AK, and a MAC-10, and very little resources. They don't have any more follow-up smokes. They've been blocked completely on the attempted execute over it, but Gravity winning the duel versus Jota on the MAC-10 of all things may be a way that they can spark some interest back into this B play.
Need to try pop up in the smoke. Sammy not revealing his position for now. Flashbang through, and Xcloud wants to fight. So does Youngster. Sammy, right in he goes. You asked for plays to be made, Michael, and it's time for him to do just that. Another kill found. He knows where Lucky is. The peaks never stop. And neither does Sangal's winning ways.
Yeah, 3D Max just looks so disjointed. You know, they expend all of their resources. They don't call it quits. They stop, they freeze, and as soon as they get that follow-up kill, they're simply not prepared for Sangal to re-aggress and try and take that territory while there are still smokes keeping 3D Max away from sort of garnering much more information. 3D Max just don't... They are not anticipating Sangal to be proactive in these moments where there is this hesitation from that T side.
LNZ now trying to intercept the force buy. Find himself the first kill, but Trade immediately comes forward. 3D Max are going to be pausing. They're retreating backwards and seeing what they can find, but the problem is that puts them out of time. A youngster is pushing in. Exorcist has been found, and Sammy likely going to be coming through. The tag on the marker is surprising for me. I didn't think that would be much damage dealt, but it's not really significant. Lucky feels very unlucky over here if he had been found, but timing looks good for him to be able to move back. Instead of 3 versus 2, CT is still very aware of what this hit is likely going to be. Joda only has to keep an eye out, and that, with Lucky looking away, that should have been a free kill. Instead, it's going to have to be a little bit more of a fair fight. Smoked off Nate to pop that one open, and he wants to just try and delay while his teammates regroup with him. Joda has Sammy coming in from behind. First kill found. Lucky's all alone, and Lucky as well will follow.
Yeah, that gets a little awkward, but it is a full team ace in from Sangal, able to get contributions across the board. And sure, 3D Max had this avenue of assault that they could have had over towards B, but as soon as they realized that Jota has access to that dark or connector, it kind of forces their plant towards spawn, and Sangal can rotate right into for a free kill. They have never had to worry about their economy on this CT side. They've hardly had to worry about many casualties throughout this entire half. It is 10-1, and hard to justify not seeing a scoreline completely dominated by ones at the top of the screen.
At least it's a full buy from 3D Max to try and fight for that second round over here. But it doesn't feel like that's actually been giving them anything extra at all. CT's getting aggressive in middle. Joko's been spotted out. Marcusin is trying to cover it off, but the shot's been missed, and LNZ refranks it out. And with another missed shot, Marcusin is not doing his teammates any favors. I don't know how. I do not know how that shot doesn't connect over there. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, well, XFlot had the same thing just happen to him as well. Basically a sitter of a kill that's given up the other way around. Well, this could have just ended into an 11-1, but looking likely now that 3D Max might be able to convert. These players are low HP though. Lucky and Gravity, not the healthiest fish in the ocean.
How are these fish getting unhealthy? All this pollutants. And Sangal are the ones trying to chuck them right back over, but another clean kill found, and they might start to go towards A. LNZ, however, already 2 kills, looking for the ace. Bomb's been dropped for free. Finds another one with a molly in his hand. LNZ might get it in the end, and we might still have our 1-1 situation. Molotov now forward. LNZ gets it done. Every kill looks so damn easy.
An ace clutch, and I mean, that's the end of the half. 11-1, a fantastic showing from LNZ at the end. And if you had any doubts about whether or not 3D Max could come back, whether or not Sangal would be able to keep up that pressure throughout this entire CT half, there's your answer right then and there. We'll see how it turns out after the break.
And Ace Slush to close out the first half, an 11-1 scoreline. I don't think there is much that needs to be said about 3D Max's chances to come back here.
There was a light at the end of the tunnel. But then when they got close to that light, all they saw was LNZ and his broad shoulders. Yeah, losing the 1v3, that will sting. They want to show that they are a good team. They have to show it here and now.
Nice flashbang, actually, and as they're starting to go forward, Jodo's going to be completely blinded out by the counter flashes. CTs do pick themselves up a couple of kills, but Joko can't find a frag to save his life, and honestly, that's exactly what he needed to do. Meanwhile, LNZ continues to be omnipotent, and he will... I can't believe the state of the individuals on 3D Max right now.
Yeah, it's really rough to look at, isn't it?
I just don't want to see it,
dude. Even in the round at the end, you know, prior to being 1v3'd, when LNZ was pushing mid and he got spotted by Joko, the fact that Joko was so hesitant to fight, there was a real fear, I think, that has permeated the 3D Max squad. There was a weird internal vibe check what we had to do midway through this game, and you could tell that 3D Max were not feeling it.
I think I'm ready to call this one. Like, it's a brave thing to say at 12-1, but I'm
truly the brave decisions you've gone for.
Mate is good on to Lucky. As if he didn't have enough reasons to be afraid. Moves back, and now X-Fan might have a chance to actually look to push through this smoke. Gravity on the other side of the mid-smoke, but in the meanwhile, there's also a world where you start to wrap back and make this B split. But with a re-smoke there to Temple, it seems a little bit more unlikely now. X-Fan that way. This could be a timing. CTs could be exploiting this one. 2 quick kills for the pistols, and now Youngster and company need to start pushing forward. The bomb can't make its way over. Youngster can't find a kill either. LNZ now in another position where, let's say, it's not quite the 1-on-5 or even the 8 slash in general, but he's gonna have to do a lot.
May not have to be him. Joda finding a kill, and Maka already being tagged up, even though his scout is whistling in for a few tags himself. This actually is looking like it should shape up to be a 3D Max round. LNZ, oh no, another clutch, and this time getting off his hands on a Galil as well. 22 seconds, and beginning to make this rotate around. He has to start running. He has to start running quick, but he wants to get out of that earshot, and 3D Max are none the wiser. Gun drawn, both players drawn over to that B bomb site. They think there's no possibility, no way he would have made his late round rotation, but LNZ has a great post-plant position and has the ability to reposition as well in the clutch.
He gets a bomb plant at back gate as well? Is there anything LMZ can do wrong in these clutch situations? Yes, there is. Okay, I have my answer. It's not really his fault, to be fair. He's still 15-3 right now. This is a crazy round, but at the very least, 3D Max are able to put themselves together one on both halves, right? You know, that's at least you've got that.
That's an all chatted NT, if I've ever seen one, because
from Sangal, right?
Yeah, sure. Oops, wrong chat. Had he hit that first shot, it could have really spelled disaster there for 3D Max, but all well and good. Get their hand to second round, but you know, I don't often double down on your takes, but that brave call you made, I'm kind of with you on it. You know, we both had 3D Max to look at as the highlights. You know, a team that comes from the most recent season of ESL Pro League have looked okay, a little shaky in portions here in the ESL Challenger League, but you know, given the potential floor that this team does have, maybe some of the I guess problems outside of the server, or you know, coming off of that ESL Pro League into Challenger League, you know, these are things that can sometimes affect teams. Maybe they're just not quite feeling themselves at the moment. But Sangal have to be absolutely loving life. I don't think they've played the most tactical Counter-Strike They have been fairly aim dependent, fairly aggressive. I've loved the orchestration of some of these aggressive plays. Like, they are clearly facilitating. They want those fights. And it's worked, you know, throughout this series. You know, Dust 2 may be a little bit more untested, or still some work to be done, given the limited sample size and officials for these guys. But that should, in theory, be another map that they can add to their wheelhouse at some point when they get it up to speed.
You certainly expect that one to be working in their favor if this is how they want to play, yeah. And look, we're obviously seeing the very best from Sangal and some of the very worst from 3D Max. Both of that combined, putting it together, is maybe even making Sangal look more aim-reliant than they actually are. Maybe there's more to it, but obviously that's something that needs to be forced out of them. If they're not going to be pushed to the brim, then why pull out all the stops?
Yeah, why use all the tricks when simple plan does good?
XSC's, he's got a simple plan over here as well. Lucky's behind him, and he is in front, and he wants to try and take fight. Spots out one, Youngsters traded, Lucky pulls it all together. Molotov to try and interrupt the T side as well. Lane nade that is a little bit too shallow perhaps, and Sammy and company want to start pushing forward. AK is recovered, and in the meanwhile, Xcloud has got an aggressive down middle.
Still some minor signs of life here for 3D Max. This was against the force buy of Sangal, but one where they had the most investment. A missed shot from Xcloud, and Maka will push through to main as well. Get his hands on an AK. No upgrade available there for Gravity. Too far away from where all of those carcasses lay. And a chance for 3D Max to just compose themselves, understanding that it's a long road if they want to throw us into the overtime. Coming back from a 12-1 would certainly be something.
Yeah, I'm with you. It would be something. Feels like we're in an echo chamber, Michael. But look, for 3D Max, a couple of more rounds as well, just to take back for yourself would be nice. I don't think it's that significant because it is lower bracket and it's not like you're playing for momentum or anything like it, but it'd be nice. And then meanwhile, this is also going to be nice for Lucky. He needs to start cleaning up a few of these kills. Does actually only get one for himself, and Joko as well, being dinked down by the Glocks, has to be careful. M4 pushes him away, and now XFCs is going to be in an awkward position. Gravity spotted out, and he's being very careful. XFCs is the one actually picking up frags. So.
Yeah, given that Lucky stayed at those at the doors in mid, kind of expected that he was going to encounter some problems. You know, when there's so many players just wide swinging you and you don't have that player fighting from camera and Temple to sort of back you up. The reactions from 3D Max were a little slow, perhaps, and that could be something that Sangal look to exploit in one of their gun rounds, perhaps, if Lucky is going to be independently placed there. He could also be a weakness that is targeted. Lucky this time will join him. AWP peering in through mid. They don't smoke it off, though, so that should signal some hesitance from Sangal.
Deep flash time. Lucky's going to be completely blinded out by it. X-Cloud can shut him down, make it look easy. And that's because for him it really was. Lucky was very blind. In the meanwhile, Youngster is just trying to continue putting a bit more pressure out on that lurk, but the reinforcement of the A side is very swift from 3D Max. What you have to be careful of is Joda, however. Joda potentially could push through into B and get a lot of info. Flash goes awry, but XSCs doesn't care. Gets the kill anyway.
Youngster's going to be very disappointed in that duel. Knew what was coming his way and still couldn't get or come to grips with that particular fight, so equalizing into a 4-on-4 and the fresh smoke down over towards B and a new smoke as well over towards camera. Starting to really worry about the prospect of a wrap towards Temple, but these players on 3D Max, they've lost all foothold. They have no defenders actually on the B play, and so Sangal have open territory, open runway to get themselves into an afterplant, into a 4-on-4. And sure, there are kits and Molotovs aplenty. There's smokes available here for 3D Max as well, but not offering up any defense. They have lost track of all the potential post-plant positions Sangal could be in.
XSC's finds himself one though, and the flank coming in, Sami's going to be incredibly important. Picks up Maka, does he realize there's more coming his way? Yes, he does. XSC's spotted, but another Molotov from the CT just trying to disrupt, but it's not going to happen, not going to work. 13-4, Sangal's dominance was never doubted. It was only a question of how much longer 3D Max could have survived.
Yeah, I mean, a very, very strong and emphatic showing here from Sangal. I think every map we had within this series showed different strengths for both these squads. You know, when we were looking at the opening picks between Ancient to Dust 2, you know, I think both teams looked great in their respective outings. But for me, I was expecting more out of 3D Max. This just felt as though they were missing a lot of fights, they were missing a lot of duels, and I expected their floor to be much higher than what they displayed here. Sangal out-dueled them, they outmaneuvered them, and came away with a lot of really nice set pieces as well towards the end. I have to say, hats off to Sangal, very deserved victory on that final map.
Yeah, really nicely played across all of those individuals. Great decision making, and the duels themselves didn't feel like the macro decision making was ever really tested. And so, like we said, Sangal probably does have another layer of depth that they can go to and will likely have to go to going forward. I think they're playing up against Aurora. I believe it is confirmed. Yeah, so it is confirmed. Sorry for the spoilers, guys, in case you haven't already seen it. But they're going to be playing up against Aurora in the next match as well. And honestly, I think they'll have to bring out that depth. Aurora still comes out being a pretty big favorite in the overall Tier 2 scene. But Sangal looking good and probably feeling good after this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they would have expected this to be quite a tall order, quite a tough task. And, you know, when they were humbled on S2, maybe that was how it was supposed to be going into the final map. But I think it's just, you know, it's a shame to say this, but I just don't think 3D Max showed up in the decider. They couldn't get any kills at the start of the game. CT Economy looked great. They were constantly reacting to these aggressive moves that Sangal were going for. And then, you know, it was only really when we got these small, that one round from Gravity where he barrels through mid was the only weakness they exploited. And then they tried it the very following round, and this time Sangal didn't fall victim to it. So
we did have our Kadia player to watch down over here right below that strip. I think we might be able to bring that one up again. Maka was our player to watch out, and Maka unfortunately wasn't able to get too much done on an individual level on pretty much any map over here across the series. Map number 2, we praise his calling quite a fair bit, but again, Michael, this is just not the guy that we've been praising for what seems like months, if not at least a year, about being a fragging IGL who can AWP and IGL at the same time, and how impressive it is and how much he's been able to offer. This was not the Maka we saw on the server today.
No, absolutely not. I think that it's fair to say this kind of stemmed from the neck down as far as the 3D Max side is concerned. You know, if you lose that, I think it's very hard for anybody to come back. I think we saw some nice rounds from Gravity, we saw some nice rounds from Exorcise, but I didn't think that there was even players like Lucky and Joko and Maka. You know, that's sort of, in my opinion, the more experienced core of players that, you know, have the more running time with each other as well. I thought would do better, but they went missing. I think it's an unfortunate happening, but, you know, that's, I think, all the more credit as well to Sangal and how sporadically they can play, how aggressive they can be, and how dynamic they can kind of express themselves. So, you know, kind of shout out LNZ for not only the, you know, the ace clutch this guy's able to pull together at the end of the first half, but then also, you know, coming in with that game plan, keeping things relatively simple in certain areas as well.
Well, listen, also at the same time, it's not like anyone was ever missing. The fact that xCloud ended up on, I believe he was the lowest amount of kills on this team, that's very surprising in itself, right? You know, that's not what you normally see on a Sangal game. xCloud sort of is the guy who you can relying on to get a couple of those important mid-round franks and everything like it. It felt like he was never needed, though, because he wasn't the one getting aggressive early on. Anyone who got aggressive just got the kill, right? xCloud's mid-rounds didn't come into question. So yeah, very much the best of Sangal's individuals, not the best of Sangal the team. I know that is still to come. And also, I believe we've also got an interview to come very soon. But before that, we can take a look at the bracket as well. We do have Movistar Koya moving forward into the grand finals, and that does guarantee themselves a slot at the ESL Pro League. Now, Sangal find themselves 2 matches away from guaranteeing themselves the same.
Yeah, and I think in the lower bracket final should be Sinners in there as well, so it'll be either Aurora or Sangal moving forward to play against Sinners for that grand final position, for that final slot at ESL Pro League, and, understanding that that comes with prize pool as well as, maybe better ranking, with better ranking points as well, and as well this just, gives you a good idea of kind of the standard that you're expecting to see out of each other moving into a stage like Pro League. But yeah, Aurora Sangal will be quite an interesting game in my opinion. Aurora coming back from Mongolia, and having been a team that have been on the road, kind of between Australia to what they were in the Dasha event, and then going to Mongolia, and then coming back. For them, this has been a bit of a long-standing road show, but they have to show up as well when it comes down to it, because they're a team that in theory are kind of on the rise with the amount of I guess repetitions they're having to go through at all these different lands.
Yeah, Aurora are definitely one of those teams that I think everyone's a bit confused about. They might be a bit confused about themselves as well, about where do they really stand. Is this the kind of team that we should be seeing start to make a run at SCL lands for, maybe having a couple of top 10, top 8 finishes in a few of these? Or is this going to be a team that sort of teeters down and peters down? And it does feel like ESL Challenger League is going to be another one of those situations where, are we going to actually see them go forward to the grand finals, right? We've seen them maybe have some slightly disappointing results over in Mongolia as well. We've maybe had some slightly disappointing, not too disappointing results over at Dacha as well. I want to see more from Aurora, and Sangal's going to be very interesting for that one. But we're going to find out more about Aurora later. But let's find out more about Sangal right now. We've got LNZ on the sidelines waiting for us over here.
Hello.
There he is. Hello. Good to see you, LSE. You had a great Anubis, not only as a team but individually. What do you think was going so right for you guys? Because we saw some nice aggressive pieces. Was that a part of the game plan to throw them off?
I think partially. Like we always set up a specific game plan for the team we play against, and we know what kind of plays we can set up, not only like in the first rounds of the game, but also like in the mid game. And I think we also have a great ability to read like what they've done and what they will do. And I think we kind of just, I wouldn't say we only flow, that it's only luck, but we kind of flow with, the calculated risk, that we take.
I mean, obviously, a lot of preparation going into that one for you guys, right? But I was wondering for you in particular, how have you been adjusting to, all the IGLing, obviously international team and everything, all of these fantastic talents around you? I'm sure it's hard to manage it all. How have you been adjusting?
I think since I started IGLing like 1.5 years ago, I've had problems adjusting to my teammates. But I think ever since we got in the coach Jumpy, like since February, he's helped me like adapting a lot more to the players I have and to the players that we have, which I think he's done a good job with. So I feel like it's just like all natural for us right now, and especially for me to just do my things in game and call, like how I want to call, but still get it to work like on a team basis.
Talk to me about the dynamics of this team, because I think there's so many times when newer rosters are formed, or I guess when teams are starting to grind up, there's very clear, like very set stars. I never feel like there's anyone that shies away on this Sangal team. I don't think anyone is ever a liability or a problem, or is, I guess, making mistakes as much. As an in-game leader, is that the easiest scenario for you to work off of, where you don't have to think about all these extra contingencies, or are those still in place?
I think it's definitely a privilege to have a team that is this good, like individually. And it's much easier for me to call. Sometimes I don't have to call as detailed, because I can trust that the players will take good decisions themselves and shoot very hard. It's just it's a privilege to play with these guys.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. But final question before we can let you go. Don't want to be keeping you for too long. Aurora's your next opponent coming up. Any thoughts on them?
No, I think they're a strong team. We haven't played them, I think, that much online, especially since they switched some players. I don't remember who they switched, but I think they're pretty new, right? So I think they're a tough team, but I think it's not any team that we haven't. It's not a team that is better than the teams we've already beaten in this tournament so far.
Well, thank you so much, LNC. Good luck, and again, congratulations on the match and the great ace class that you got over there as well.
Thank you, boys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Lovely to be able to speak to in-game leaders, and especially one that seemed to be quite pleased with their result and pleased with his teammates. You know, a privilege to play with his squad, and that's exactly what, if I was a teammate of someone doing an interview, I'd want to hear that all the time. It's like a privilege playing with me. Oh my god! And he seems to fully mean that, and I think we saw that in the series. Yeah, there was a lot of independence. There was a lot of trust in each other to perform in those spots, and by God, did they perform, especially when it came to their own map pick and the decider.
Well, listen, guys, you can trust that the ESL Challenger League is going to continue to deliver all throughout the playoffs. It'll be continuing out this week. Make sure you're tuning in for more of that action tomorrow as well. I believe it'll be the same time, same place. And of course, if you want to be looking out internationally, North America, South America, Asia, we're having all of our playoffs all at the same time. Maybe even Australia, but I won't speak for Australia because I'm honestly not 100% sure about that one. But the point is, outside of Australia, everyone else is definitely having their playoffs at the same time. They might be as well. So there's a lot of Counter-Strike to watch. It's all going to be happening here, there, and everywhere, so make sure you're tuning into all of it. For now, though, we're going to be sending it off and away. We'll be back with North America in a couple of hours, and back with Europe tomorrow around the same time.